And welcome to the Raleigh Board of Selectmen meeting of March 14th, excuse me, 2016. The time being 6:31, I call the meeting to order. And we need a pledge of allegiance of the flag. Larry, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, general business, number 1. Letter from Libby Tucker regarding zoning bylaws and right to farm general bylaw. Okay, Chairman Mary recommends that this matter be referred to the Zoning Review Committee. Okay. To the Raleigh Board of Selectmen. This letter is a request to meet with the appropriate parties to address and clarify a zoning bylaw which appears to conflict with the town's right to farm bylaw. The right to farm bylaw permits agricultural activities in the outlying district, section 4.4.2B of the zoning bylaw is in accord with the right to farm bylaw. However, under the uses permitted in all districts, section 4.8C, it states that agricultural, horticultural, and viticultural, provided that such uses shall be limited to parcels of land containing at least 5 acres. Currently, Massachusetts does recognize small plot farming at a 2-acre minimum under Chapter 40A, Section 3. The amendment to Chapter 40A, Section 3 is as follows. Activities may be limited to parcels of 5 acres or more, or to parcels 2 acres, italics added, or more, if the sale of products produced from the agriculture in silviculture and horticulture, floral culture and viticulture. Use on the parcel annually generates at least $1,000 per acre based on gross sales dollars in areas not zoned for those things I just read, all those cultures. For such purposes, land divided by a policy or private, land divided by a public or private way or a waterway shall be construed as one parcel. For clarification, it should be noted that the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources issued an agriculture law memo, ALM 10-04, revised November 19, 2010, which states, the amendment to Section 3 creating a small plot farming was adopted under an outside section of the budget bill and became effective immediately upon the governor's signing on August 5th, 2010. It should also be noted that the amendment to Section 3 does not alter the acreage requirements of other laws, such as use taxation under Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B. I thank you for your time and consideration. Libby Tucker, citizen and Raleigh Agricultural Commission Chair, 186 Central Street, Raleigh, Mass. So what is she's saying that there may be an issue between the town's zoning and the actual state law for this?
Right, well, at one time our bylaw actually mimicked or was based on the state law provision. Said it included this limitation of 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, and I wasn't aware of this, but apparently the state legislature removed that limitation. So our bylaw is no longer consistent with the state one, so I think we definitely have to revise it.
Yeah, so we probably should push this off to the zoning board
Yeah, it makes sense.
committee.
I just point out, however, that in the outlying district, which covers most of the town, there is no 5-acre limitation. So So it wouldn't be a problem anywhere in that district, which again is
Okay.
most of the town.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so entertain a motion that we pass this on to the zoning review committee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number 2. Notice from Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, Keno to Go game. Whatever that might be. Dear Sir, Madam, the Massachusetts State Lottery is offering existing non-pouring agents our Keno to Go game, a transaction which is identical to the already existing online games such as Megabucks and Mass Cash. At this time, the lottery is not providing agents with a Keno monitor as part of this program. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 10, Section 27A, as amended, you are hereby notified that the following existing agent or agents in our community will be sending an application and agreement to sell the Keno to Go product. Rowley Convenience, 21 Main Street, Rowley, Mass, AKA Lonell's Restaurant, years ago. If you object to these agents selling Keno to Go, you must do so in writing within 21 days of receipt of this letter. Please address your written objection to Christian Gonslaves, General Counsel, Legal Department, Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, 60 Columbine Street, Braintree, Mass. 02184. Should you have any questions regarding the program or any other issue relative to the lottery, please call me at 781-849-5555. I look forward to working with you as the lottery continues its efforts to support the 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth. Sincerely, Michael R. Sweeney, Executive Director. So is there any comment or question or opposition?
No objection, Mr.
I have no objections either. I think if I know this convenience store has just started. It hasn't been there that very long. If this helps them stay in business, then more power to it. So. We haven't received the application yet, right? Oh, no.
No, they're notifying us that
They're notifying us that they're doing
business
it.
will receive it.
And if we wanted to oppose, we'd have to send a letter within 21 days. So I'm assuming we don't need to send anything.
No, if there's no objection by the
No
board,
objection, no.
there's no response.
Make a motion,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, to not oppose this license.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. General business number 3. Letter from Brooke E. Ten Eichek? Eichek? Is that about right? I'm probably slaughtering
Yeah,
his
probably
name.
Ike,
Ike?
I'm saying.
Yeah, just
Okay.
let it go. Ike.
Ten Ike? If you're out there watching, sir, I'm sorry, but
I think it's a
forgive me.
It's a woman.
You're here?
It's a woman.
No? Okay, that's okay. I'll apologize, believe me. Okay, regarding Open Space Committee opening and letter from Conservation Commission regarding Brooke E. Ten Eyck, interest in serving on the Open Space Committee. Brooke Ten Eyck, a resident of Newbury Road, has expressed an interest in serving on the Open Space Committee. The Conservation Commission recommends that she be appointed to the vacant seat. Dear Board of Selectmen of the Town of Rowley, my name is Brooke Ten Eyck, and I have been a resident of Rowley for the past 6 years. One of the reasons we decided to buy our first home in Rowley is because of the great trails and preservation land available for recreational walking, skiing, etc. As we've settled in and put down roots in Rowley, I realize I'd like to become more involved in the town and be of service to the community. While I have not had previous direct experience on town committees, my appreciation of the open spaces in Rowley, my daily use of the trails, and my current work experiences as a project manager in Boston provides a solid skill set to be part of the Open Space Committee. I have attached my resume for your review. I appreciate your time and consideration. If you have any questions, you may reach me at 978-500-7805. Okay. He works in Boston.
I move we appoint Brooke to
Well,
the
I
open
was-
space.
Yeah, I was just gonna read into the record, Joe,
Oh,
that,
sorry.
the Conservation Commission
Yep,
recommendation.
okay.
This is to the chairman, the Raleigh Board of Selectmen. Subject, request for appointment to the Open Space and Recreation Committee. Honorable Chairman Murray, the Conservation Commission has directed me to convey the commission's support of Miss Brooke Ten Eyck's request for consideration of an appointment to serve on the Open Space and Recreation Committee. Ms. Ten Eyck attended the commission's public hearing held on Tuesday, March 8, 2016, at the Town Hall Annex. A presentation relating to a possible open space project was reviewed by Ms. Ten Eyck, and she observed a variety of applications and requests that were brought before the commission that evening. The commission respectfully requests that the Board of Selectmen give full consideration to Ms. Ten Eyck's request for appointment to the Open Space and Recreation Committee. Sincerely yours, Brent Bazelak, Conservation Agent. Now entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. General business, discuss special permit application submitted by Daniel Destan.
DeStefano.
Stefano, that's what I was trying to say, Bob. Zoning Board of Appeals has submitted a special permit application from Daniel Destinano to the Selectmen for review. Does the board have any comment they wish to pass on to the ZBA on this application? Okay.
I looked over, Mr. Chairman, from my point of view, I have no objection.
Yeah, actually, evidently, there's going to be a public hearing by the Zoning Board of Appeals
Right.
at the Annex on Thursday, March 24th, to act on the application received February 17 from Daniel Destinano. Applicant is requesting a special permit from the Board of Appeals to change the existing non-conforming use on the property from an industrial machine shop to a landscape contractor's business under Section 5.2 of the Raleigh zoning bylaws. Property is located at 804 Havel Street, Raleigh, Mass. The property is in the residential district and is shown on Assessors Map 5, Lot 2. At the public hearing, members of the public may ask questions and present evidence that supports either the approval or denial of this petition. So, I'm assuming the board has no objection.
This is a piece of property, Mr. Chairman, it's across from Skip's store.
Yes, it used to be a
Used to be
machine shop.
machine shop, and apparently they moved out.
Foxwood Machine
Right.
was in there. They actually built the building.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I have no objection.
I have no objection.
None.
None.
Okay, all those in favor, actually, Dave made a motion?
No, I just, you want a motion that we have no objections to, or no,
No
yeah, no
issues
objections,
with it. We'll just
no issues
forward-
with the application.
Just to forward it to the zoning board.
Yeah, forward.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Was it seconded?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that takes care of general business. Now we have new business. Okay, new business number 1. Letter from Division of Conservation and Recreation Assistant General Counsel Nancy Mitchell, re a proposed acquisition of 58 plus or minus acres of land in Raleigh. The Department of Conservation and Recreation is considering purchasing approximately 58 acres of land in Rowley. Debbie contacted Attorney Mitchell to see if she could send a better description of the land. She has sent a copy of the survey plan and a better map than the one that was originally included in the mailing. In order for the state to continue with the process of purchasing the land, the Board of Selectmen needs to read the certificate of announcement and 120-day waiver into the record and to authorize Chairman Murray to sign the document. I knew I wasn't going to get out of this easily. Certificate of announcement and the 120-day waiver. In accordance with 301 CMR 51.08 of the Town of Rowley, hereby certifies that on date 2016, a public announcement was made at a regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting of the Commonwealth's interest in acquiring said land and other property interests in the Town of Rowley. The locus map marked Exhibit A, showing the proposed acquisition, is appended hereto. In accordance with said regulation, 301 CMR 51.00, and others, I, G. Robert Murray, Chairman of the Town of Rowley Board of Selectmen, hereby agree to waive the 120-day notice period and do hereby approve the acquisition by the Department of Conservation and Recreation of approximately 58 acres of land or other property interest in the Town of Rowley in less than 120 days. I can't do this alone, but I will do it under vote of the board.
What exactly is the 120-day waiver? I mean, or another way to put it, what exactly are we waiving? Does anyone know?
We probably have the right to purchase it ourselves if we want.
So it's like right of first refusal, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's almost like with agricultural land when they want to put it into house
Sounds
lots.
like it, yeah.
I think it's the same, I believe it's the same thing.
The
Okay.
notice period.
I can read that paragraph that's in the letter.
It is, as I understood from Attorney Mitchell, it's a notice period. They're trying to get this transaction done in this fiscal year. So they're kindly asking the board if they would consider a waiver to this 120-day period for under their regulations.
They're asking to waive the 120 days is what they're doing.
Right.
So evidently their process has a 120-day period that they use. It's actually on the third page.
This is different from the,
This is the same parcel, part of that parcel.
yes.
It's a
Yeah.
backland,
The happy
it's
kind of land, yeah,
a backland of the actual
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
Seems like there's nothing back there, I think, seems
All right,
like
that's all,
there's
it
a lot
all
of
abuts,
wetlands back there.
it all abuts state forest.
Yeah.
Georgetown, Rowley,
I
and,
think-
This has nothing to do with what was going on with the Community Preservation Committee. It's a totally
no, but it's land
independent.
adjacent to it.
It's a different transaction, though.
No, but it's adjacent land, is it? The other parcel is up in the front part.
So I'll entertain a motion to allow the waiver to be signed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. New business number 2. Review draft zoning bylaw amendment article. Town planner Kurt Baker has submitted a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the special town meeting for consideration by the Board of Selectmen pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40, A, Section 5. The Board of Selectmen must request the planning board to hold a public hearing on this proposed proposed zoning bylaw amendment in order for it to be placed in the warrant. Planning board is sponsoring a warrant article being requested by Sandy and Brian Patrickin of 420 Newburyport Turnpike LLC to transfer portions of lots 3, 3-1, and 5-21 1A on Rowley Assessors Map 18 from the outlying zoning district, OD, to the Business Light Industry, BLI, zoning district at the 2016 spring town meeting. See if the town will vote to amend the zoning district map of the town of Rowley by transferring the premises there hereinafter described from the outlying district to the Business Light Industry District. The property shown on a plan entitled Plan of Proposed Zoning Map Amendments, Town of Rowley Assessors Map 18, dated March 7, 2016, on file with the Planning Board, consisting of portions of parcels identified as Assessors Map 18, Lot 3, approximately 2 acres, Assessors Map 18, Lot 3-1, approximately 6.5 acres, and Assessors Map 18, Lot 5-21-1A, approximately 2.3 acres, is depicted on said plan, and for a total of 10.74 acres, submitted by Sandry and Brian Patrickin, inserted by the Planning Board. Is there any comment or question?
Yeah, I think it should be noted that the planning board is proposing this rezoning at the request of the owners of Ipswich Bay Glass, who basically, as been indicated, basically want the back portion of their property, which is currently zoned as outlying district, to be changed to the Business Light Industry District, which would enable them to use that portion for commercial purposes. It seems to me it's an excellent idea. There are no residences back there.
At this point?
At this point. There used to be 2, but
Yeah.
they're no longer there.
I think that's probably why they would like to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's still outlying and residential, it could create some issues for them. It's already.
Right, and I think Ipswich Bay Glass has just done a tremendous job on that property, and I think we
Yeah.
should encourage this sort of thing.
Yep. Okay. So we'll pass that on to the Planning Board.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a vote of the board?
Sure,
Under
yeah.
the formality of the statute, please?
Yep. Entertain a motion.
Give me a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out citizen query.
Yes, citizens' query tonight will be from 6:50 to 7 PM. So, okay, item number 3 under new business is Rowley Golf Course seasonal liquor license renewal. It is the time of year for seasonal liquor license renewals. There is only one seasonal license holder in town, and that is the Rowley Golf Course. The renewal application is in order and requires the approval of the Board of Selectmen. Okay, the check is here. The application is also here.
I know, Mr. Chairman, there's been no issues out there. I would recommend we probably approve it.
Mr. Chairman, just for informational purposes, I'm a member of the Rowley Golf Course and will recuse myself.
Which means that you cannot drink. You understand that?
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If you recuse yourself, that's it. You're all done. No drinking.
All done.
You can play all the golf you want, but stay away from that.
We'll be
I'll
watching
give you a
you,
motion to
Phil.
approve it, Mr. Chairman.
All
This
those
one up.
all
Cut
those
this
in
one
favor
off.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Chief.
I'm not even gonna let you sign it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. So we've got about 5 minutes to go before we open the regular meeting, the 7 PM appointments. So can we get the stable license squared
Sure.
away? Under old business, item number 1 is a stable license. Okay, discuss stable license renewal submitted by Richard Bertelson. A complete renewal application for a stable license has been submitted by Richard Bertelson of 100 Weathersfield Street. The applicant has an overdue water bill of less than $2. A check of all taxes due was submitted last week. We are awaiting confirmation that this check has cleared, but the treasurer is satisfied that the payment has been made and okay with the board signing this renewal. The applicant has stated a payment plan with the light department, started a payment plan with the light department for his overdue electric bill balance. And the light department has said it is okay for this renewal to be signed. The license is attached for the board's signature if the renewal is approved. So any questions, comments?
I'll give you the motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Jim, if you wanted to delay discussion of item number 2 until after the interviews, I can quickly discuss number 3.
Okay, if you
Get
want
that
to
out
do
of the
that.
way.
Yeah, that'll work. We'll move down to 3, old business number 3. You pick up number 2.
Discussing the public safety building project, as you all know, we had the plans drawn up and the estimate for approximately $11 million building project for the public safety police and fire station up on Havel Street at the location where the current police station is. I've had discussions with the fire chief and the police chief and the architect, and we're moving forward. We'd like to move forward at this time with a public publicity campaign, obviously, to hope that voters will approve it, both the article at town meeting as well as the overrides that will be on the ballot. So in conjunction to that, both the police and fire departments have made about 10 or 12-minute videos regarding the situations in their stations. They're already on the website, on their websites, and I've asked the town administrator to talk with our webmaster, and we're going to get them on the more prominently displayed on the town website. We also discussed the issues of, because there's a school issue at the same time, override for the school, it appears at this time as though the two groups are going to work together, the school and the police fire people. And that's still details to be worked out, but we're trying to plan a couple of presentations for the public, televised presentation, and so on and so forth. So just to let everybody know, it's moving forward. The architect is somewhat concerned that with the building costs seem to be very erratic. He says they're shifting from month to month,
Wow.
depending on, so there's a lot of people out there looking to get projects done, and so he's going to relook at the $11 million cost to make sure we have enough money in there. But he's going to do that relatively quickly. So just to let you know, it's moving forward. We'll have more information. We're meeting with the PTA from the school as well as the school administration. Hopefully they have a presentation over at the Pine Grove School auditorium in conjunction with the PTA, and they can get a lot of people there, hopefully, and have it televised, et cetera. But that's what's in the wind, and we're working on it. So
The schools are in agreement with that.
okay, so
Okay. The time being 7 PM.
Quick question, is the police, the fire video already up, did you say?
is what?
The fire video
Yes.
is up? Okay.
police and fire both.
The
there.
police department and the fire department, if you go on the town website and then go to the police department.
I
and go-
saw that one,
Right, and then go to the fire department.
so there's.
That's there, and then hopefully, very shortly, we're gonna get them, so you can go right to them from the webpage as you'd originally go to. And I think the school is intending to make a video too of the shortcomings over there, so that members of the public can, take a look at all three projects and hopefully see the need for them, so.
Okay, the time being 7:01. Citizens' query has closed, and we will open the appointment schedule. So, Deb, I saw Mr. Pomeroy out in the hallway there. Can we maybe see if he's have anybody for us?
Let me ask him.
Sure, thank you.
I think we're ready for 7. 7 o'clock appointment? We're ready.
Thank you. Hi, Bob.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Well, we have a special seat for you right over there,
Thank you, thank you.
and we have a special seat for you right here, Scott.
Oh, yeah, Dave Peterson.
How are you?
Joe Perry.
Nice to
meet you again, sir.
Yeah.
Cliff Pierce.
Okay, appointment number 1, Scott Richards for interview of the police chief position. Okay, Scott, we've been through this once before
Yes, sir.
with the screening committee.
Yes.
So, if you could please tell us about your professional career and why you were interested in the police chief position in the town of Rowley.
Sure. I started off many years ago as a correctional officer in the Essex County Sheriff's Department, and from that I went to work as a patrolman in the town of Groveland. The opportunity came up in my hometown of Peabody to go back to Peabody as a police officer in Peabody, and I chose to do that. And I've been there ever since. While working in Peabody, I have risen through the ranks over the years. I've worked every position from patrolman to detective, detective sergeant, detective lieutenant, watch commander, you name it, I've done it. Now as a captain of the Peabody Police Department, I'm responsible for a lot of things in the department, a lot of divisions, including a couple of jobs that most people don't want to do. I'm in charge of the building. I'm also in charge of the fleet of over 50 police cruisers and buying them, outfitting them, maintaining them. So I have a lot of administration and organizational experience. I've also, during the course of my career, engaged in a lot of training, executive development training at FBI Leader, Mass Police Institute Leadership School, and other things in preparation of becoming chief someday. I knew that at some point down the road I'd like to become a chief as part of my career ladder. So that's what leads me here today.
Okay. So, other questions, or want to ask questions
Sure.
from the rest of the board?
How accessible should the chief of police be to members of the community?
Should be accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's
All of them.
to all of them, yes, sir.
And to members of your department, the police department?
Same thing, 24/7,
Communication?
all the time. Communication is very critical. In the department I'm in, even as a captain, I'm on call 24/7. And I have been just about my entire career, because in the Detective Bureau, I was always on call. So I've been used to getting phone calls at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, weekends, during the week, and it's never been an issue with me. It's been like that my whole career.
Very good.
How do you see yourself, you've been in a large department for
Yes, sir.
a number of years. How many police officers?
There's 100 sworn.
100 sworn. So how do you see yourself making that transition from a large department with many different divisions to a small department whereby you kind of supervise everybody and everything that goes on?
I find the transition for me is going to be very simple, or very easy. I worked in the town of Groveland for a couple of years before I went to Peabody. That's a very similar community to the town of Rowley. And I know that even though it's a smaller department, you have the same issues personnel-wise, equipment-wise, budget-wise, grant-wise, that you would in a larger police department. It's just a more smaller environment that you're working within. It's more of a one-on-one as opposed to going through a lot of different layers of organizational people. So I think the transition to the larger city to the smaller town is just going to be bringing me back to where I began.
If you're, sorry, if you are selected for the chief position, what would you expect that residents will be saying about you and the department a year from now?
I would hope that the townspeople of Raleigh would say that they're extremely proud of their police department, that it's a very professional and well-run police department, and it's a very community-engaged police department, one that's user-friendly, one that they can go to and contact the chief or the patrolman or women that are in the department and have good open dialogue and be proud of that division and that department.
What will be your style of supervision?
I have a style, I adapt my style to certain things. I am a fairly black and white person. I'm very structured. I like things done a certain way. However, there has to be a certain amount of flexibility that goes along with that. So I have a very adaptive style to the issues that come up. Some things need a very stern, this is the way it is and that's the way it has to be, and I can do that. There's times where things have to be a little more flexible than that. You have to collaborate and consult with other people on the best outcome. Sometimes the hard-edged thing is not always the best way to do something, but I can do what needs to be done given the circumstances.
Media relations and training. How do you, obviously over the years, newspapers, Salem News being one of them.
Yes.
We have the Newburyport News.
Yep.
Can be very critical and interested in police operations. How do you see yourself in leading Rowley in terms of media communications and dealing with newspapers and et cetera?
In Peabody, for many years, the policy was always nobody spoke to the chief, but spoke to the press, but the chief and the PIO, or the press information officer. There was not a lot of communication or dialogue went back and forth. I personally think the press can be a friend, and you need to use the press for that purpose. If you're open with the press and you communicate with them on a consistent basis, I think they're going to be more friendly towards you when they write articles down the road about the department, if they want to criticize or whatever. If you've had a very good relationship with them up to that point, I think it's going to cause them to treat you much better. So I think being open with the press, to a certain degree, you can't say too much, but being open and accessible to them and engaging them is better than keeping them at a hands-off, standoff type of position. And that's a position I would take as the chief here in Raleigh.
Follow up on that with training. Obviously, with everything going on in the world of police work today, it's obvious that most every department needs additional training and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we do. What would be your role, and what kinds of programs would you see trying to get our officers and personnel in the department trained?
Well, training is an ongoing process, and it should be undertaken basically on a daily basis. As a chief, I would encourage police officers when they have some downtime to do a little training on their own, as far as reading their law books and keeping up with statutes and so on and so forth. But as a police chief, I can always implement other types of training for the officers by bringing somebody in and using the facility for training. It could be leadership training, it could be training on NEMLIC, it could be any kind of training. All that training is important. But you use the facility to bring in a trainer, and we can get that training for our guys for free. You get a couple of seats for free, you bring somebody in, they do a seminar, you bring people in from outside departments, and you're able to get some very, very, what would be costly training sometimes for free. So not all training costs a lot of money. So I would stress training on a daily basis and try to organize and bring in speakers to come into the department to train and to train our officers for free as best I could. And then, of course, there would be other training going along with that. I wouldn't suggest we're out in the backyard doing barrel rolls every day. That's not what I'm talking about. But training is an everyday type of thing for me. And I myself, even as the police chief, during the day, if I had some downtime, would have my nose in the books and be keeping up to date on statutes and law changes and everything else that are going on.
And what is your formal background, and what courses have you taken, or training, types of specialized training that have you been involved in over your career?
Well, over the years, I've taken a tremendous amount of training in narcotics investigations and task force things, leadership training, executive development training, supervisory training, command level staff training, and a lot of that training is coming in the latter part of my career when I decided to move up the chain from lieutenant to captain, and eventually knowing I wanted to become a chief. My training went more from operational things to leadership things and administrative things.
How do you define community policing? What are its advantages and disadvantages?
Community policing, to me, is a partnership between the police department and the community that it serves, an open line of communication where the police department and the townspeople work in conjunction with one another to identify troubles in the town or things that need to be addressed, and to get the police officers involved in the town, whether it be going to the store, getting out of their cruisers and going to stores and visiting businesses and people, and just creating that open dialogue. I think that's a positive, and it's a very good thing, because it has that line of communication that can identify those trouble spots that can be identified. However, there could be some drawbacks to that, and some of the drawbacks are if you become too friendly sometimes with people and there's too much of that going back and forth, and you have a situation that requires some police action, it may cause some police officers to not want to do what they have to do because of that relationship they have. So it can go both ways, but I think the positive side of community policing outweighs the bad part about it.
In your present position, how have you or your department utilized technology to improve operations?
We have tried to maintain cutting-edge technology in our police department with laptops, and I remember years ago, we were the first department in the area that had little handheld, I don't know if they call them tablets enough, they had little antennas on them. We actually had Sieges right on the little handheld units, and we could run warrants and everything right through those, and we were the first department that had those around here. And then that rolled into laptops in the cruisers. Right now, we're trying to obtain technology that would allow you to swipe a driver's license right through the laptop in the cruiser. That will put up a picture and bring you all the data on the person that you're dealing with that license would automatically all come right back up. So you wouldn't have to do everything over the air. People listening to scanners wouldn't hear all that stuff. So, you know, that's the kind of technology that we're bringing in. I am also trying to broach the issue of dash cams and body cameras in the PBD Police Department. And so, you know, there's a lot of computer technology, upgrading the computers constantly so they work faster and so forth. But I'm big on the technology, but we're leaning towards now the body cams and the dash cams and that sort of technology.
See any other technologies coming down the road that you would like to see it done?
Facial recognition, I'd like to see that become more prevalent. I'd like to see, I don't know if Raleigh has a live scan fingerprint machine, but the live scan fingerprint machines are getting much better, where you take somebody's fingerprints and they automatically scan them into the databases, so if they're a wanted fugitive or whatever, you'll get that data and that read back right away. So that's a type of technology that I'd like to go towards.
How would you do? Excuse me. Go ahead.
A hypothetical, say you've just disciplined one of your officers.
Yes, sir.
And it's made a lot of people in the department upset because they think the discipline was too severe, but you think it's appropriate, it was an appropriate discipline. How would you handle that situation?
Well, I would probably call in the union member, the union head or the representative to the union, have a sit down with them and discuss it with them and explain the purpose of the discipline and why it was done that way, and hope that that person's relationship with the rank and file would be able to get that information out there and kind of take care of the problem. If that didn't, then at that point I would probably call a meeting with the people that weren't happy about what happened and have some open dialogue about it. You can't speak so much about personal matters and the nitty-gritty of the discipline, but you can sort of explain to people why it was done and how it was done to try to mitigate that negativity that was coming from them. Communication is the big thing, is talking to people. You just don't do something behind closed doors, know it has a negative effect, and then don't do anything to try to fix it. Communication is very, very important.
How would you describe the labor management relations in the department in which you currently work?
The union in Peabody is it's a very strong union, and they are involved in a lot of the decision-making that gets done in the department. So the union is involved in all disciplinary matters, anything that they perceive as a change in working conditions, If we want to propose body cams or dash cams, the union is a major player in those negotiations, because that would be a change in working conditions. So the union is very prevalent in the city of Peabody and is involved in a lot of the decision. Well, I don't want to say the decision-making. They have input, and a lot of the policy changes and decisions that get made, the union plays a strong role in that.
Have you participated in contract negotiation?
Specific contract negotiations overall, no. Certain items to the contract, yes, and I've also dealt with the union on disciplinary issues, internal affairs issues, and other related issues. But on contracts themselves, I've had peripheral involvement in that, but I haven't had direct negotiations, no. The chief does that.
A change of pace a little bit, on a personal basis. Where do you see yourself being, assuming you get this position, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I kind of ask that based on the fact that chances are, from looking at your application, you're probably going to take a pay cut here. And we may not have the benefit package. You're going to be giving up a lot of benefits or reduction in benefits compared to what you're getting currently. And how do you see this affecting your accepting a position here? And
Well, I thought about that, and I came into this knowing that. I don't want to say that money's not important to me. It's important to everybody. But I've been in this career for a long time. I make good money in the city of Peabody. My wife works, and she makes good money. Money, to me, is not the be-all, end-all of everything. Career satisfaction and getting to where I want to go in my career is probably more important and overrides some of those things. In 5 years, if I get offered the job here in Raleigh as the chief, I see myself as the police chief in Raleigh still. I hope, and I just want you folks to understand that I'm not here for the short term. I'm 52 years old. I have another at least 10 years to go in my career. So if I accept a job, or if it's offered to me and I accept a job here in Raleigh as the chief, I'd like to be the chief in town of Raleigh for the next decade.
Very good.
Off the beat question here. Been a prosecutor?
I have not been, I've testified and been in court and presented cases with our prosecutor in court for many, many years, but I have not been designated as a prosecutor. No, I have not.
Okay. Hypothetical. Tomorrow, one of your young officers is going to go to court. Okay. How would you prepare him?
I would sit down and I would explain to them what the process is. I'm assuming you're talking about being the first time they're going to court. I would sit down and explain to them the process. If they're going for a trial or if they're going for a motion, what that process is. I would explain to them to be relaxed, to prepare, and not to get nervous, and to just testify to the truth, and just go with the best of their memory, and just try to maintain their composure on the stand and not get nervous. And I would explain to them that a defense attorney is going to try to rattle you. Don't let that happen, and some of the things that he could use or she could use as defense mechanisms for that. But I would try to walk them through the process from beginning to end. But each process is different. If it's a jury trial, or if it's a bench trial, or if it's a motion, grand jury, all these things are different. So I would walk them through the process geared towards whatever they were going to court for. And I wouldn't do it the day of. I'd do it beforehand so that there was plenty of time to get them around. And if they had any questions later, if they thought about something later on, they could call me, and there'd be plenty of time to address those things.
many of our issues in a small town like this is basically daily patrol activities, which is critical to the town, the public, and the department. But we've had increasing amounts of crime requiring investigations, not only by our own people, but our other departments, state police, whatever. How, what's your experience in terms of investigations, and how would you interact with that? We have basically one detective who's backed up by the other members of the department, but how would you, how do you see your experience being able to work with this detective, and he's relatively new, so building that part of the department up?
Good question. The vast majority of my career was spent in CID, or Criminal Investigations Division, as a detective. I've investigated cases as minor as a shoplifting case all the way up to homicides. So I have extensive experience in the investigative field. I've written scores of search warrant affidavits and applications in my career. I've done hundreds of actual search warrants and entries, investigations into kidnappings, you name it. I don't want to go on and on, but I have extensive experience in the investigative field. And certainly I would impart that experience onto not just one guy, I'd probably pick, or gal, I'd probably pick 2 or 3 of them, and sort of impart that experience to them help guide them through these investigations. I wouldn't send one out on an investigation and let them on their own. I want to set them up to succeed. So I would certainly either be with them or be at phone call away and guide them through it and get them the training that they need. I'd send them to detective school and get that training. As I was telling you before, I could get somebody up to the department, sit down, get a couple of free seats, and get some people trained in investigations. The worst thing in the world is to have something happen and have somebody go to investigate the crime and have them not know what they're doing. I don't want to set somebody up for failure. I don't want to set them up to succeed. So I would use my extensive experience to help them out and get them on the right road.
What's the first thing you do when you come in the morning, and what's the last thing you do at night before you go home?
First thing I do when I come in the morning, I don't drink coffee. So there's no.
I was going to ask you.
I don't drink coffee. I've never been a coffee drinker, so I'll have a water. I usually will check in my emails and check in my inbox and see what's there and what awaits me for the day. And then at the end of the day, before I leave, I typically will make sure that whatever I had on the agenda for that day is done, and that what I think needs to be done the following day is kind of in the works and ready to go for the next morning. And communicate with the people that I work with too, and certainly check in with them and leave and let them know that I'm going home.
Do you see yourself in a large department? Obviously, you're more into administration than you are daily police activities at this point in your career, anyway. What do you see the chief in a small town like this as far as? Do you see yourself being out in the community a lot? Community activities, community functions. How would you handle that?
Exactly that. I think the chief in a small town like this needs to be engaged with the community. If there's a school dance or a function downtown or just the businesses in general, I would be, if I wasn't in my office doing something in the office or working directly with the officers in the field, I would spend my time engaging with the community and going to events in the evening or whenever they were, so that I could get that relationship built up with the people in the town so they can feel comfortable if they see me at a baseball game or if they see me somewhere, not saying, oh, there's the chief, there's the chief, hey, chief, how are you? And walk up to me and talk to me and engage. Communication is very important, and the people that you serve are the people that are going to give you the information you need to be successful as a police chief. So I would engage the community at every chance that I could.
Right now, we're in the height of our budget season, and we're preparing our budget for the town meeting to be held May 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Have you prepared budgets or worked on budgets? Or?
I've worked, well, I control portions of the budget in Peabody, so I've prepared budgets for the building, I've prepared budgets for the fleet and other things. Those wind up getting entered into the overall budget as sort of parts to it. So yes, I've worked on things before, and you look at your fixed costs, you look at your flexible costs, and you start to work in what you think you're going to need, and then you work it out, and you come up with a figure and hope that that's going to fly. But that's certainly not always the case. So you have to be willing and know ahead of time, if they can't give me this much and they can only give me this much, where do I take this much from? So you have to have some prep work done before that to know how to react to those things.
Very good.
What are your thoughts on communicating with the Board of Selectmen?
I think, well, it's important. The Board of Selectmen run the town, so having a good working relationship with all members of the board, not just one or two, but everybody, is very important to me. And certainly as the police chief, you would all have my phone number. If there was any issues that came up, you could call me at any time of the night, day or night, and bring those issues up with me. Collectively, if you needed me to come to the meetings, I would come to the meetings, whatever needed to be done. But I would want to establish a good relationship with all five of you, not just one or two of you, but the whole board. And I think communication, again, is very, very important.
If you got the job, what's your vision for police department in Raleigh?
Well, other than the typical, growth issues for the town and things that come down in budget issues that normally come, I would hope that the police department, and my vision for the police department, is to be, and this may sound a little grandiose, but to be one of the most professional and well-respected police departments around here. Not just around this area, but in Northeast Massachusetts. I'd like the Raleigh PD, when they hear that name, Raleigh PD, they say, it might be a small town, but those guys are squared away. Those gals are squared away. That's a great department.
That's not grandiose. That's good.
Well,
Yes.
but that's what I would shoot for, and that's what I would strive for as the police chief here. And that would be every day. I would be working to better the department and to better the processes, to better the policies, to better whatever there is. Every day would be trying to better something in the department.
Have you been to the police station?
I have.
So obviously you know the condition
I
we're
do.
working under.
I do.
We're in the midst of just brief discussion before you were interviewed about, we're going for hopefully $11 million public safety project. At the same time, we're going for a grant to improve our public elementary school. So we're under the gun for some of these projects. If you're appointed, you're going to come in right in the middle of our campaign to get this past the taxpayers, hopefully
Yes.
approved. What do you see as would be your role in all this? Because we're going to need some strong leadership to help us get through this budget.
My role
You're
is-
jumping in right at the.
Oh, I know. I read it and I've seen it, and I happened to be there for an accreditation seminar not long ago, so I did see the condition of the police station. My role as a police chief would certainly be to champion a new police station, and my job would be, in the short time that I would be able to do it before they vote on the warrant, would be to try to get a hold of and meet as many people as I could in the town and try to explain to them the condition of the police station and what really needs to be done to make this police department what I envision down the road. If you want people to be professional and you want them to be squared away and do their job, you have to give them not only the tools to do it, but you got to give them the physical environment to do it as well. And there are certainly some accreditation issues that go along with the police station the way that it is. MPAC has granted certain waivers for the police department to become accredited with issues in the building, but they're not going to continue to do that forever. So it's certainly something that the town needs and the police department needs, and I would do everything I can as the police chief to champion that cause and to get out there and spread the word, invite people down to the police station for tours, explain to them what the circumstances are, and I don't want to say beg them, but try to get them to understand that and the more you wait, the more it's going to cost. So try to get them and convince them that this is something that needs to be done. So I'd be on the forefront working with the Board of Selectmen. I'm hoping you're all on board with getting a new station. But that's for another day. But I would be on board with you folks and try to push the issue and try to get the people to understand we need a new station here.
How do you reward good performance?
Well, good performance can be rewarded in many different ways. A lot of them is just a quick, hey, attaboy or an attagirl, good job. But I like to formally recognize people when they do something that's not part of their everyday job, but if they go a little bit above and beyond, and there's different levels of recognition. You can give somebody a letter of recognition, you can give somebody a commendation, but I think that there's so much negativity going on in the police world today that it's important that you do praise people when they do something well or good. And that's what I would do, is I'd come in front of the selectmen periodically and ask for people to be recognized for doing certain things. I will tell you this, I'm not one for recognizing people doing things that are part of their normal everyday job. They should do that anyway, that's what they get paid for. I typically look for people, recognize people that do something a little above and beyond that. And but it's very important, very important.
Any other
I'm
questions?
all set,
I'm all
Mr.
set.
Chairman.
Do you have any questions for us?
Not so much a question, but just a statement. I obviously, being in the final three, my qualifications, I would think, speak for themselves as far as being a police chief. But I think what makes me uniquely qualified for the job here in Raleigh is the fact that I grew up in Peabody, 10 miles down the road. I've lived in Haverhill for 30 years with my bride and my kids. I'm 52 years old. I got a long way to go. I'm not ready to check out yet. Relationships in the police profession are very, very important, and I can tell you that I have tremendous connections and relationships with the district attorney's office, the state police, the sheriff's department. I know personally, because I worked with them as patrolman many, many years ago, or at the jail, Chief Nikas from Ipswich, Chief Cudmore from Georgetown, Chief Kamelowitz from Groveland. So I have these relationships are established already. I could pick, well, I don't have my phone on me, I left it in my car. But I could pick my phone up right now and I could call any one of state agencies, federal agencies, and get whatever assets I needed in the town of Raleigh to deal with the situation. I could have them here within minutes. And that's years' worth of relationships that I've built up, especially in my years in the drug unit and doing search warrants and task forces. FDA, DEA, ATF, you name it, I've got them. So I would hope that being from this area geographically and knowing the area and having these contacts would be a bonus, would be a plus for me. And I think that's what makes me uniquely qualified, not just qualified. And I hope that you take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything to say? You're all set? Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, Meaton.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you again, sir.
Meet the rep. Nice meeting.
Jeff.
Look here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Jeff, pleasure to meet you, sir.
Hi, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman. Joe Perry, nice to meet you, sir.
How are you, Dave Peters?
Great, nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
Okay. How you doing?
Doing well, sir.
That's good.
Thank
That's
you.
very good. Please tell us about your professional career and why you are interested in the police chief position in the town of Rowley.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you gentlemen and to present my credentials. I'll touch just briefly on my personal background. I've been married for 25 years. I have 2 teenage children, a son and a daughter. I'm a graduate of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. The Academy instilled in me honor, integrity, and hard work. More recently, at the University of New Hampshire's Master of Public Administration program, I've studied, written about, and discussed exemplary public leadership. I have over 27 years of experience at the Nashua Police Department in areas ranging from enforcement to administration to leadership. I have experience in planning and organizing, policy development, training, hiring, technology, budgeting, and investigations, just to name a few. I'm a strong proponent of community involvement. I believe that customer service should be the overarching theme of almost everything we do in police work. I've spent a career establishing and maintaining productive, positive relationships with public safety professionals and really every stakeholder in the community. I believe I have unquestioned integrity. I believe what I say. I do what I say. I live with what I say. And you know, if there's really just a few areas to touch on that I think would be important to bring to this community, it would be effective communication skills. I think communication is the most important aspect when it comes to maintaining trust-based relationships. With a communication breakdown, I think the mission suffers, and I think it's essential to leadership. The second area would be leadership with a focus on development and growth of the police officers, creating a positive, professional, ethical, learning environment. I'm not talking about micromanaging. I think it's critically important that the officers gain experience through ethical, correct decision-making, discretion, using creative tactics, you know, in partnership with the public to solve problems. But I'm talking about a learning environment. I consider myself a lifelong learner. I think you have to stay nimble in this business. What may have been a state-of-the-art decision 5 or 10 years ago, that may not be the case now. The third area is direct involvement with the public. Public interaction, face-to-face, personal, community outreach. I've always been a big proponent of that. Strengthening relationships, you know, from the police department to the public. I think their input is very, very important. I think the police department and the public really has to be in step. I think we need to identify their expectations, what they need, what they're seeking, maybe something that they're not getting that we should be providing. So those are really the 3 areas that I wanted to just kind of touch on a little bit more. Why Rowley for me? I believe that my qualifications, my resume, you gentlemen have, there's not an area of police work or police management that I haven't been a part of or exposed to. But when I look at your community, being a smaller agency, a smaller community, I think that my style, my philosophy would be a good fit here. And I say that because of my style of personal interaction with the officers. Being a smaller agency, I think it would be very effective. Getting to know the officers, getting to know them as people first, and then officers. Getting to know their strengths, their limitations, their interests, maybe their blind spots, what they need to help them grow to be tomorrow's leaders. And I look at the community the same way. Being a smaller community, I could reach a greater percentage of your community through face-to-face interactions. I'm visible, I'm available, I'd wear the uniform because that symbolizes the agency. It means something, being out in the public. I've watched your selectmen's meetings. I've watched some of the good things that Chief Mulligan has already brought to the community. The coffee with a cop, reading to the kids at the Pine Grove School with the detective. Excellent stuff. Excellent. I'd like to emphasize that even more if that's what the community wants. I think every community likes community policing and values, having that in the community. Citizens academies, surveys, senior relations. I noticed you had a great seniors newsletter. I'd love to put a column in that every month to the seniors and interact with them face to face. Crime Watch. One thing that struck me about this town, your geography, would be to potentially put together a Crime Watch group made up of people that live, work, or recreate on your waterways. Your maritime domain, the Raleigh River, Plum Island Sound. If there's anybody that's going to notice something that's amiss or that just doesn't look right on the water or near the water, it would be that group. And that's what Crime Watch is all about. Awareness, education, sharing information, and enhancing that sense of security, with the police. I'd love to sit down with your harbor master, your shellfish constables, and kick that idea around. And the beauty of that would be it would cost you the price of a pot of coffee to put something like that together. So, those are the things that when I think of your town, Rowley, how I see myself as being a good fit. I hope I've been able to demonstrate my desire for the position, the commitment that I bring to my job in Nashua, and the commitment that I would bring here. I'd love to be a part of your team. I really would.
You currently live in Derry?
I do, sir.
Would you continue to live there, or would you move closer to Raleigh?
I'd plan on moving closer.
Oh, you do?
I think it's important for the police chief, like any department head, to be close to the community, to be a part of the community. I've raised my kids in a small town. I live in a small town. I pay taxes in a small town, so, I get that, the importance of being part of the community. I volunteer in a small town.
You spent a great deal of your career as a detective,
Yes, sir.
and in particular with the youth divisions, I noticed.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a little synopsis of your activity with them, the kinds of things you do with them, and getting involved with the youth of the community?
Certainly. The Youth Services Division was set up to investigate primarily felonies, but crimes committed on juveniles or crimes committed by juveniles. There was a lot of, unfortunately, sexual assault, internet crimes. We had some gang activity in Nashua, and so we would form a partnership with DCYF and the schools and other social services and try to handle these cases one at a time. The goal of the juvenile justice system is a little bit different than the criminal justice system for adults. It's really about rehabilitation. We would partner with our Police Athletic League, of which I'm a board member, and try to keep kids occupied, doing healthy things in the community. spending time with them, diverting them away from things that we don't want to see them involved in. But it was rewarding, it was challenging. You know, quite often when you're investigating a sexual assault on a juvenile, there's typically no witnesses. The victim is young and intimidated, and there's not always physical evidence. So relying on a confession as a result of a good, solid, prepared interview was always important. And we would strive to make these cases the best we could. But again, as far as the kids go, it was about rehabilitation. I worked as a detective. I worked as a sergeant in there. We'd get as creative as we could while still living within our budget. I recall a time when I was reviewing the arrest log and reviewing reports, and I noticed an uptick in the offense of failure or duty to report. We have about 150 typically sex offenders living in Nashua. I noticed an uptick in duty to report arrests. So I gathered my detectives, my sergeant, and we put together a think tank. And I says, why the uptick, and what are we going to do about it? We need to get creative here. At that time, sex offenders were required to register annually, once a year. And they'd offer information voluntarily, the vehicles that they drove, the residence, where they worked, and any internet accounts. But it was only annually. We noticed that large time span really facilitated deviation from updating information or just providing bogus information. So I put together this think tank. I brought in our grant manager, and we determined that to try to correct this, we would do more compliance checks, increase the number of compliance checks on these people. So I secured some funding, grant funding. We created a system to do about 10 to 12 additional checks per week. That was on 150 offenders. We'd give the detectives overtime to do this either before their shift or after their shift. If you went to a residence and the car didn't look like the one that was supposed to be registered there, or if you went by a job site and the car wasn't there, or if you went to a residence and it looked like somebody else was living there, you know, you had articulable suspicion to look further. As a result of this, what we first noticed was an uptick in arrests. But the best part was 6 months later, we noticed arrests go down. And the reason for that was awareness. We invited the media to do a story. They went out on the street with us. They took photos of a detective knocking on the door. It was nondescript. We didn't use anybody's name. We didn't use any, an obvious address. But that awareness enhanced a sense of security for the public because they knew we were on top of this. But it also caused these offenders to get on the stick and to get in and give good information and to do it, timely. So we did quarterly checks on everybody. Later, the state moved to change the law through legislation to require them to report twice a year. Now, was it a result of our program? I can't say for sure, but I do know at the time we were the only department that was doing this. So I'd like to think we had some impact on that. But that was an example of really creative tactics within budgetary constraints. Back to your question, sir. That was the type
You did
of...
pretty well answered it.
Thank you.
This is obviously not a high-crime community. What would you do as chief of police to keep the police officers attentive, involved, and challenged?
Direct involvement with the public,
Well, with
increased community, involvement with the public
yep.
through programs, community policing programs. But in addition to that, expose them to areas that maybe they haven't been exposed to yet. Find out their weaknesses. They all have strengths. From what I've heard, that they're all good officers here, but due to the limited amount of activity, you know, sometimes you have to get proactive with your training. Sometimes that experience doesn't fall into your lap, but get proactive, you know. Speak with them, meet with them one-on-one, face-to-face interaction, and find out what their interests are, you know. Create trainers within the department to train in interview, investigation, crime scene, courtroom testimony, patrol tactics, defensive tactics. You know, that would be a good start. It's critically important to keep them excited about the job. I think they all get in this business to serve. If anybody lives a purpose-driven life, it's a police officer. But I do see that, you know, it is important to keep them interested, to keep them active. So I would say increase the training. It can be done in-house. Talk to them, find out what interests them. Quite often your best ideas come from the patrol division, from the patrolmen. They're on the street, they see what's going on, and quite often your best philosophies or ideas come from the patrolmen. You know, maybe some job exchange or within the department, you know, geographically moving them around, you know, ensuring that they know how to dispatch. You know, in Nashua, most of our officers have the knowledge to dispatch, and we put them in there on occasion. Whether you need them in there or not, it's good for them to get that experience. So that's something within your agency that you could do.
If you were selected for the chief position, what would you want the community to be saying and thinking about you in 1 year's time?
That I'm visible, that I'm available, that they see me in the uniform, that they see me in community events. They see me at board meetings. They see me at the senior center. They see me at the school. And I'm out meeting people and introducing myself. And it can be something as simple as, how are things in your neighborhood? Tell me. That the officers are looking sharp, they're attentive, they're professional, they look good, they sound good, they're a good representative for this community, in the community. That the people are getting to know the officers more through personal interaction. It doesn't take a call for service to interact with the community. You know, as I just mentioned, somebody's getting their mail, cruiser happens to be going down the street. Stop, introduce yourself. How's things in your neighborhood? You know, that I was responsive to them. I'd love to know what the community's expectations are. I'd love to know what their needs are, that I was responsive to their needs, that we operate transparently, whether it's a citizen's complaint or a report of a lost dog or a missing child or a damaged mailbox, that we're responsive and transparent and available. What I'd like them to say is that they know me, they've met me. That's what I would like.
What technologies have you been involved with, and what new technologies would you think the town in the future might adopt?
Some of the technologies that I've been involved in Nashua, I was asked to spearhead a project where we joined forces with the fire department, the school department, City Hall, Public Works, to install a computer system that tied in timekeeping to attendance to payroll, so that every department was tied into that, an automated system. For us, it would take care of outside details. It would track an officer's overtime. It would track overtime to a particular case, or a particular court case, or a particular call-out. something like that. Obviously, a lot of things to connect with all these departments. Some employees were required to punch in, our civilians, yet our officers were not, because of the fact that, you know, they're quite often working 5, 10, 15 minutes late, or they may come in 5, 10, 15 minutes early. A punch-in system for officers proved to be too much of a challenge to really watch the nickels. But the civilians were required to punch in. School department employees, DPW were required to punch in. So really tying that all in together into a system that's essentially custom created. A company would had to come in and custom fit this. I was responsible for the oversight of the beta testing with our IT people to find the bugs. And trust me, it was 6 or 8 months of finding bugs, small bugs, but bugs that had to be, you know, dealt with. So that was one system. We also dealt with a lot of replacement of computers in the cruisers while I was in the Services Bureau. Complete replacement of our entire radio system. We did our dispatch center. We went to automated fingerprint system that scans your fingerprints as opposed to the ink type system for when we first came on the job. So, you know, technology is here. It's only going to grow. You know, social technology or social media, you know, Twitter, our website, things like that. It surrounds us, and so you have to be attentive to it, and you have to stay nimble, because like I mentioned earlier, something that was state of the art 5 or 10 years ago is outdated now, and you can't get behind the 8 ball.
Have you prosecuted in court?
Yes.
You have an hypothetical tomorrow. You have an officer, young. He or she is going into court tomorrow. How do you prepare them?
Our officers, right now, they do an excellent job in preparing for their courtroom testimony. They know they have a court date coming up tomorrow or the next day. They take it upon themselves to get the reports, to review the reports, and to know their case. As police officers, we're professional observers. You can't have a report up on the stand, so that requires preparation. But we also instill in them, if they don't remember something, then you just say that. You know, always be truthful. Always protect your credibility, because those judges will never forget it. And you'll be judged on that. And talk about, you know, destroying a career, destroying a reputation. You know, it's not about winning and losing the case. You go in and you do the best you can, and really it's really about justice, not just winning cases. But from day one, we incorporated into ethics training, courtroom testimony, and we instill upon officers always, always, always be credible. Be meticulous with your word. Having said that, if it's an important case, or I shouldn't say an important case, but if it's a complicated or complex case, one of my prosecutors will meet with the officer a day or two before, go over the reports, see if he has any questions, see if everything's included in that report. You know, it's critical that we provide good discovery to defense. If there's something that he knows or there's something that he documented that we haven't provided, we have to call a timeout and let defense know we need to give you some discovery.
The Police Relief Association, is that a union, or is that more of a social organization? You got to spend a lot of time leadership there.
It's a nonprofit, sir, and essentially we would collect dues, and the Police Relief Association in Nashua would pay for the dental for our officers. We have a comprehensive health plan, but at the time that I was as an official with the Relief Association, the city didn't provide dental, so we would provide dental insurance. We would put on a kids' Christmas party for the officers' children. we would make donations to the Red Cross or different places. I was a board member for many years with the Police Relief Association, and then I was president probably 15 years ago.
What's the first thing you do in the morning when you come in, and the last thing you do at night before you go home?
First thing I do is check my phone messages and emails. I strive to respond to people within 24 hours. In my job assignment now, I'm really peppered with emails and phone calls from defense attorneys seeking an offer in a case. And I always strive to get back to them within a day or within the day. Obviously, if it's something urgent, immediately. But that's the first thing I do. I like to go home with a clean desk. I'm not an 8 to 5 person or an 8 to 4 person. I stay until I need to stay to get the job done. But try to tidy up as much as I can, focus on that, and because I know tomorrow brings new things.
How do you see that transition from relatively large to, how big is the National Police Department?
We're about 260 with civilians, sir.
260?
With civilians.
So that's quite a move from a department that size. It's very compartmentalized to a small town like Raleigh. How do you see you making that adjustment?
I really don't look at it at all as an issue or any true need for adjustment, and I'll tell you why, because I've spent a career in small units. Our department is made up of small units. Whether it's patrol, there's squads, shifts, day-off groups. There's specialty units such as our traffic unit, problem-oriented policing unit. In the detective bureau, there's crime scene, there's the criminal investigation division, youth services, the domestic violence unit. I've been a member of the crisis intervention unit since its inception back in 1995. The dive team, the legal bureau where I work now is a fairly small unit. The services bureau where I worked prior to coming into the legal bureau, small unit. So I've really always worked with a small group of men and women, functioning within a larger organization, and then working cooperatively between 2 or 3 small groups of people. So I don't look at the transition as being an issue whatsoever. Like I say, I've spent a career working in small units, small divisions.
You're coming into Raleigh from a department that's well outside this particular area. How do you see yourself, or what kind of outreach would you do to other departments, other various law enforcement agencies that really you don't have much contact with now, being from Nashua?
Probably within my first week, I would ask to meet with the chiefs from all the surrounding towns, and not just bordering towns. And it would take more than a week, but I'd start that quickly, and to form relationships with these chiefs, to find out their philosophies, what's worked well in their agency, to share information. When communication is frequent, it's much more open and frank. If you don't hear from somebody for 6 months, it's not always frank, it's not always open. So I would strive to share information, ask them what I can offer them for information or for support. Criminals don't honor jurisdictional boundaries like we do. 3 burglaries in Raleigh may not seem like the end of the world, but if there's 4 in Ipswich, and there's 4 in Georgetown, and there's 3 in Newburyport or Newbury, it's a problem. We have to connect the dots. We have to share information, and again, that's frequent, regular, face-to-face dialogue. There's a time and a place for emails and phone calls, but when something needs to be face-to-face, it needs to be face-to-face. I know you're a member of NEMLAC, which is excellent. Regionalization of assets. One phone call, and we could bring in a communications bus or a response team or bodies to look for a walkaway child, an autistic child, you know. So being a member of NEMLAC, I think, is excellent.
My last question is, have you been to the Raleigh Police Department? Are you familiar with the building, the facility there?
I've driven by it. I haven't gone inside, sir.
We're in the midst of, hopefully at the next town meeting in May, appropriating somewhere around 11 million, give or take. At the same time, we're going to be starting a building project, or looking for money to start a building project to modernize the elementary school. If you're appointed, you're going to come into the middle of that nightmare. I mean, obviously the facility is in badly need, along with the fire department. We're looking at a combined public safety, fire and police. How do you see your role in helping us to implement that? Because you will be. You'll be coming in like a month before or whatever, depending on exactly when you're hired. But
What I would do is come in and really do a soup to nuts assessment based on my experience. I've presented capital improvement projects in Nashua, in the city. So I understand what it takes to have a functional police facility that meets accreditation standards. So I'd really do a soup to nuts assessment from A to Z, very thorough, and then document that so that if the time comes that I come to the board, whatever my position was, it would be very well supported with thorough documentation. I would anticipate any questions that I think you might have and try to make sure that those are answered before you ask the question. That's what I would do. But any request would be supported. I understand what it means to live within a budget. I understand the value of a dollar to the community. I'm a taxpayer. I understand that, you know, dollars are needed throughout the town. Although the police department is typically the most visible in a community, they're not necessarily the most important. Everybody's important. Of course the schools are. DPW, roads, the fire department, they're all important. So we have to work as a team and determine where those funds are best spent. But if I were to take a position that something needed to be done with the facility, you can be assured that it would be well supported, well documented, and justified.
thank you.
Okay. All set, guys? You got any questions for us?
I do not. I hope that I've been able to demonstrate my desire for the position, the commitment that I bring to my current job in Nashua, and the commitment that I bring to Raleigh. I tried to speak from the heart. I know we don't have a lot of time here. You know, it's a challenge to take 27 years and to try to put it in a box and make it tangible and try to remember everything. And it's a challenge. But I tried to convey that the best I could. And I can tell you this, that I'd love to be a part of your team. I really would.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet
Pleasure
you.
to meet you, sir.
Okay, take care.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice meeting you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hello, Cliff Pierce, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Oh, it's not.
How's it going?
Hi, nice to see you again.
Joe Perry.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Dave Peterson. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Please tell us about your professional career and why you are interested in the police chief position in the town of Raleigh.
Well, the town of Raleigh, obviously, it sells itself. I mean, it's a beautiful community. It's very similar to the town that I grew up in. I grew up in Groveland. Very similar to the town I live in, which currently is in Merrimack. It's filled with a lot of, it's white collar, there's blue collar. There's folks that have lived here for a long time, and there's folks that have come here looking for a better place to live. So Raleigh itself, the more time I've spent here, the past 3 weekends just looking around, I come to appreciate again the small town feel. Policing into in a larger city, which has been my entire career. I'm looking for a change. I'm looking for that small town feel and getting more involved, with the community, being more active. As a deputy chief in a larger agency, it becomes more difficult to do that. And to be quite honestly, that's one of the things I enjoy the most about policing, is to get back out there and you lose that with that. And I'm looking for a home. I know the town of Raleigh is looking for some longevity here. Well, my next position in law enforcement, I hope to be my last one. And I plan on working another 10, 15 years, God willing, and I keep my health. In regards to my professional career, if you've read my resume, I've worked my entire career in the city of Rochester, New Hampshire. I've from patrolman all the way up until deputy chief. One of the mainstays and one of the primary goals, which has been instilled upon me from early on, is that community policing aspect. Even in a larger city, you can get out there and meet and greet the people and become involved. And we've been able to do that. It's not just things you talk about in a meeting. It's not just things that you put on a resume. Any background check into what I've done my entire career will demonstrate that. So, I've done pretty much everything in the City of Rochester Police Department office. I've started a lot of programs within that. Citizen Academy being one, the motorcycle program, accident reconstruction team. These are all things that not only give the officers something to do, something to build on, and helps with the retention aspect of it in police work, but it also, like the Citizens Academy, I can tell you that it's it started 10 years ago. We just started our 10th one this year. It's a fantastic outreach program for both, not only the citizens that come and enjoy it and support us, but also, the officers when they're reaching out, and reintroduce them to the people that we don't deal with on a regular basis. Those are the folks that come and support us, and they have the interest in the police department and want to learn about it. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Would you continue to live in Merrimack? Is where you live now?
Yeah, Merrimack's about 20 minutes away. It's a small town. I think you asked that question in the 9-question questionnaire, and my wife would, although she's been visiting the town of Raleigh with me as well, beautiful town. She loves her house, and happy wife, happy life, and I gotta tell you.
She's seen our flea market?
She has, and we've been to it. As a matter of fact, she's looking forward to the yard sale season because that's one of her favorite things to do. So,
What experience have you had in training police officers? And what is the place of training in your department?
well, I guess my first introduction into training was as a firearms instructor. I was a firearms instructor as a patrolman, became one as a sergeant, then a range master, and that was pretty much, that was the main focus that I've had as far as the direct training with police officers. However, currently, right now, I oversee the entire training division as far as what we're going to introduce to our officers. The yearly training, the use of force stuff that you need to do, but also the stuff that's going to keep us in the contemporary, with policing. We have a crisis intervention team, which a lot of officers are involved in, that deals with the mentally ill, the de-escalation techniques, for the people, because unfortunately many of the people that we deal with, on a regular basis, a lot of times they have that on board. So there's, we run the full gamut, obviously, and we try to stay on the cutting edge in regards to the training aspect, for the officers. So that is something that, again, we just keep focused on, on what's up and coming, and the officers. The officers are pretty good at finding it too and saying, hey, can you send me to this training? And we try to accommodate best we can. Obviously, the budget, you have to be considered.
What's your use of, today with technology, and where do you see policing technology going in the future?
Well, right now, as far as technology, it keeps on. We'll just start with the computers in the car. I mean, we have the mobile data terminals, MDTs. So really, it's a moving office, and currently in our office, for our offices, we want to keep them out on the road, keep them focused, and also keep them visible, for the community. Those are continuing to improve. I mean, it started with a big, bulky laptop that was in there. Now they've gotten to, we have tablets in the car, so you have a lot of applications, different apps, for that component, which helps with, and they're coming up, seems like every other day they're coming up with something new, some app for anything, and there's a lot of apps for the police work as well. We have cameras, cruiser cameras in there, which have been invaluable, and we're looking at the body cameras, which I think, I'm a big proponent of body cameras, for police officers. The problem in New Hampshire right now is that the legislation hasn't caught up with the processes as far as the right to know requests. There's a lot of unintended consequences with the body cameras. As much value as they have, they can also be a administrative nightmare when you're dealing with right to know requests. But that's going to work itself out, and I think technology is going to continue to move forward. There's plenty of people willing to sell you stuff. That's for sure.
You've got some experience as a detective.
Yes, sir.
Now, obviously, in a small town like Raleigh, we basically have one detective
I heard he's
who
very
does
good, though.
patrol work as well as detective work.
Mhm.
But it's an area that we're looking to improve and develop more expertise. How do you see yourself in terms of integrating the detective work with the patrol work, making the whole department work better as a unit, investigative unit, as well as maintaining the road patrol and those normal daily patrol functions that are critical to everybody?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, patrol is the backbone of any police agency. So you have to start there. But, as cases become more complicated, and becoming more and more complicated with the technology aspect that you mentioned, white-collar crimes, cyber crimes, and whatnot, you need to get everybody up to speed. Now, in a smaller town, just like we're doing in Rochester, we just created a detective's position where it used to be you get assigned to detective, you were there, unless you wanted to promote out of it, you generally didn't move. We've created a position specifically for rotational. So they'll come in here on a 2-year rotation. We'll get them the training, the extended training as far as interviews and interrogations. If it's a cybercrime issue, if it's a search warrant, type of additional training that they need, we'll provide that to them with the idea that they'll then go back to patrol and be that much better of a patrolman as they're moving forward. In a smaller town like Rochester, like Raleigh, you can pretty much do that. You can train all of your patrol officers to that level. Now, is it going to take some innovation in order to do that? Absolutely. We would have to maybe host some trainings to come into the town in order to get 3 or 4 patrol officers or more at a time to do that. Yes, you would. Would it be 2 or 3 years in order to do that? Probably. Yeah, in order to get that whole cyclical through there. But that's how you need to do that, because in a small town, you really don't want to send all your cases to one person. You want everybody to be well-rounded. You want everybody to be able to, move up if they want to be a sergeant or maybe someday lead the agency. In order to do that, they're going to have to be as well-rounded a person as possible. So I actually think it's a little easier in a smaller town to cross-train officers in that way, and there's certainly ways to do it. You just have to, be innovative.
I noticed you attended the FBI Academy.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us just a little synopsis of what you did and how you did it and how you got there?
Getting there was difficult. In the state of New Hampshire, it's a very competitive process. Less than 1% of all police officers put on a badge have the opportunity to attend the FBI National Academy. In the state of New Hampshire, it's in every state it's competitive. They're worked out of the field offices. State of New Hampshire gets 1 slot per session. So you can imagine the competition that's there. Now, I benefited from the fact that my chief went and my former chief went, And we stayed active in the National Academy, associates, which is the networking component and the continuous training thereafter. So actually, I had my application in there for 4 years before I was able to be selected, and that's pretty good. There's people that are 6, 7, 8 years, and there's some that never get to go because of the competitive process. But the FBI National Academy is a 10-week training where you go down to Quantico, Virginia, at the FBI Academy, and you're trained by some of the best instructors in law enforcement in the world. The same instructors that teach the FBI agents. You intermix with new classes as they come down there, and it's a 10-week process. Like I attended organizational communication, conflict resolution, statement analysis, media relations with some of the courses that I took, and I took them at a master's level class. You can take them either at a bachelor's level, if you don't have your bachelor's degree yet, or a master's level if you already attained your bachelor's degree. I was able to then utilize those masters. I took 4 master's level classes. I was able to transfer 3 of those classes because they're accredited through the University of Virginia, and continue on in my master's degree, which I received from the University of Oklahoma. Now it's 10 weeks there, 10 weeks away from your family, which is tough, which is another reason why I want to keep my wife happy. And it's very difficult, especially with 3 young kids. But after the experience there is phenomenal. But it's after your experience there, that's when the National Academy experience really kicks in. Now you go to the academy with 200 police officers domestically from around the country and 50 police officers from around the world in different countries. To learn about policing, all the types of policing that are going on. Different, I can't even begin to tell you some of the things that you learn and you listen and you continue. But then, right after I got out of the academy, we had a cold murder investigation. We had an idea the person was out in San Francisco. I don't know anybody in San Francisco prior to going to the academy, but I pick up a phone and I get a call San Francisco PD, right? And I'm just Captain Dumas at the time from Rochester, New Hampshire, calling San Francisco PD. I don't know who I'm going to get or where I'm going to go, but I call up my classmate, and he didn't have to be a classmate. You can just be an NA grad. Just say, hey, I'm Scott Dumas, National Academy graduate. You look him up in the directory, you see your National Academy grad, and all of a sudden the doors are open, and you can get any information you want. Now, he wasn't the person I needed to talk with, but he put me in direct communication with that aspect of it. That's the value of the FBI National Academy after you leave. And I continue to have that value. I'm on the FBI National Academy Associates National Executive Board currently, serving as the vice president. In 2 years, I'll be sworn in 2017 in Washington. I'll be sworn in as president of the association, with about 18,000 members worldwide. So it's an experience that continues to pay back, but also has paid dividends for me, for my agency, and really just for law enforcement in general.
How do you, just a quick follow-up in regards to the same thing, you've been in Rochester for your whole career.
Yes, sir.
You lived in the North Shore for
14
years.
Yeah.
How do you see your interaction with other departments and other agencies, state police, et cetera, as chief of Raleigh? How do you see that interaction going?
You mean locally?
Yeah.
First of all, I have a lot of good relationships as it is, and most of those relationships have been established through the FBI National Academy Associates, in my experience. Law enforcement officers, they have to develop relationships within any agency, and so, I don't know anybody specifically in Massachusetts State Police, but I can pick up look in the directory and see who's graduated there, and if I have any need with the Massachusetts State Police, I'd be able to do it. We just didn't have a lot of contact in Rochester, New Hampshire. But as far as New Hampshire State Police and any local PD, I know a lot of local PDs down here. Bobby Kamelowitz over in Groveland, Jeff Gillen's the deputy chief over there. Donnie Cudmore is the NA grad over in Georgetown, chief of police. So, those relationships have already started and been established. So it's really not that difficult. I think it would be fairly simple.
Okay, thank you.
Hypothetical, you're the chief,
Yeah.
okay? And you've had to discipline somebody, okay? And you're hearing grumblings from the day room.
From day room?
From the day room.
Yeah.
And you had to make this decision and everything else. but you keep hearing these grumblings from the day room and everything else. What's going on? How do you handle something like that?
Well, hopefully you have the, that can be difficult because personnel decisions are, personnel decisions. It's, you really can't talk in specifics a lot of times about the actual discipline, because you have to, the person whom you discipline has rights to privacy. But you can talk in general terms. If you continue to hear it, maybe you bring it up about whatever the issue was, and you bring up a general term or a general learning situation, for everybody. You're not being specific. Most people are going to understand what you're coming from and what you're doing, but it gives you an opportunity maybe to further explain why the decision was made to do it. I mean, most decisions, especially in regards to discipline, are going to be based on policy. So those policy decisions, it's pretty simple to point out a policy shortcoming. So maybe just do a training on that particular policy. Guys know what is doing it, but if I feel like it's a supervision issue, if supervision is allowed to take on, then now you're maybe just dealing with the supervisor and say, hey, this is the second, third time I've heard this rumblings going on in the day room. I know you've heard the same rumblings that I've heard. What are you doing about it? Guys are going to vent. You want them to vent, but you also want you want to develop a nice positive culture within the organization. So you want to be as transparent as possible. You want to have open dialogue as much as you can. But at the same time, there's a decorum that needs to be kept, and there's accountability, and there's a time and place for those type of situations. And you assess the situation and do the best you can with it, based upon exactly what it is.
Yep, last question. Have you been a prosecutor?
I have not. I've been to the 2-week school.
Okay. You have an officer, young officer, going to go into court. How would you prepare them?
Well, we try to. And the best thing that we tell officers when they go to court, you have one judge. Even in Rochester, generally the same judge you're sitting in front of. Your credibility, your integrity is the only thing that you have, because you're in front of that judge probably your entire career, and maybe you'll get two, throughout your entire career. So you have to maintain that. Basically, we tell them, you answer your questions directly. Don't argue with the defense attorney. Extrapolate when you need to, but you protect your integrity. If you make a mistake, admit that you made a mistake. The best compliment I ever had from a judge, he pulled me in. I was at the dump that day. I had my kid with me, and they called me on my cell phone and says, "We need you in court." I said, "You kidding me?" Right? And I says, "I'm at the dump. I've been," and the judge says, "He needs you." I said, "Did you explain to him how much?" He says, "He doesn't care." I said, "Okay." I come and he was good, Judge Kerrigan, my son sat in the back row, and I had to go up and raise my right hand and talk to him about a thing. And he went, he asked me about, the defense attorney asked me about 6 questions, and I answered him. A couple of them weren't very helpful to my case, I just, the reason I pulled the person over, and the defense attorney says, "Well, thank you for being so candid." And Judge Kerrigan says, he goes, "The one thing that, Officer Dumas says he's going to sit there and he's going to tell you the truth." Well, from a patrolman's standpoint, to hear that from the judge, and I had only been in front of him, a handful of times, but it had been enough for him to do that. I tell that story to my officers, in that regards, because you're going to have your Judge Kerrigan, and that's going to be the person that you have in front of you, and you have to maintain that. In this line of work, especially nowadays, our integrity, our word, is the only thing we have, and you have to protect it at all costs.
Thank you.
How do you stay abreast of changes in the law, and how will you keep your officers informed?
We generally get a printout. Once a year, we go to the updates. We actually have a Divine Milliman, I think, is the one that is employed by our insurance company, and we go for the yearly law updates on that aspect of it, but we also get a monthly. They just throw things out there as far as what's up there, what might be affected with us. We pass that on to the training sergeant. Training sergeant puts it into we have what's called a Power DMS, which is just it's a document organization software program that allows officers, you send it out, they have to read it, we can test them on it and sign it. You can, obviously that's a little bit more involved, but you can do the same process by hand or manual if you need to. Police Chief Magazine comes every month as a member of the IACP, and you know, they deal mostly with the Supreme Court decisions that may affect local law enforcement. So there's a variety of different ways in which, you know, new laws are brought to us. But the important thing is, like you mentioned, is to make sure you're passing that information down, and that there's an accountability aspect of it. Like I said, we send it to the training sergeant, and he has a signature sheet, or we test them on it. And that's how we deal with it. We also do that through our core competencies, you know, that we have every year. You know, the high liability, low frequency type of things that take place. We make sure that our officers are tested on those things on a yearly basis. You can have your policies in place, but if it never happens, you know, how are you gonna be assured if he's gonna react when it does happen? So those are some of the things that we keep in mind to make sure that we're always on top of it, especially in a smaller town like Rowley. You know, not that busy, you know, but as you know, anything can happen anywhere, anytime, and the officers have to be prepared for it. So that's why you have to continue to train on all the use of force components, you know, on your firearms, on your OC, on your decision making. Those are all things that these officers have to, you know, be up place. As you know, the liability aspect of it is tremendous. You know, so the training component is very important, particularly when it comes to use of force.
Media relations and community involvement of the chief. You live in the area, so you're familiar with the Newburyport News, which is our prime newspaper. Interaction with community groups, et cetera. How do you see your role in terms of dealing with the press and dealing with the community groups, organizations, et cetera, as the chief?
I think in a smaller town, the chief needs to be the voice of the organization. I think he needs to be out there and in the forefront of all that's going on in the town. That's not to say that, you know, the patrol officers don't have a role and sergeant don't have a role. Everybody has a role, but the chief needs to be that role model in order, you know, whatever the organization is going forward. I know you get you know, you get a 5K road race coming up right now, and for Pine Grove School on the 9th. I can tell you, if I'm on the chief of police, I'll be running in that, you know, 5K. I just think it's something that the chief needs to get involved in, and those are some of the things that I've been missing in Rochester. I mean, I do it, and you can ask, like I said, if you were to look at it and find out how much time I spend up in the city of Rochester, despite the fact that I'm an hour away. When people learn that I live in Mass, they're like, "Are you kidding me? You're always here." But you know, you want to stay involved, and that's one of the things that I'm eager to do to get back into in the smaller town. So if appointed, you'll get sick of me seeing my face out there.
I hope not. One last question I have is if you've seen our police station?
I took the virtual tour with Lieutenant May the other day.
Okay, good.
You know, I watched it on the media channel. Obviously you have a need.
So you know what we're facing in the very near future, the next town meeting coming up,
Sure.
an override
Yeah.
appropriation for a combination police and fire station of somewhere around, give or take, $11 million.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, we have the renovation project that the state is moving forward with us at the Pine Grove School for modernization of that building. If you're appointed, you're going to be coming into the middle of that whole, I don't want to call it a mess, but that whole process of, you know, educating the public and fighting for the funding and trying to convince people of the need for the facility. Could you just tell us what your involvement might be in that regard?
Well, excuse me. We went through this process in Rochester. In 2002, I was appointed to the building committee. We were a 60-man department at the time, but we were close to a 45-man department living in a 9,000 square foot building. Our entire IT department and functions of all the technology was in a closet probably about that big. So I had the experience in that regard as far as the messaging aspect of it. And that's a tough, I mean, that's $11 million is tough, but you have to continue to send the messaging to the need. If you want an engaged, functioning, proactive police department, the facility should go along with it. It's not like it's just, I don't like this building. Like, this is a very functional town hall, right? I mean, but is in dire need. I'm not talking about, there are also some things that have to do with the CLEAR. I mean, not the CLEAR, but the accreditation process that might not be accredited anymore. What happened to accredit the police department is no small thing. It's a big thing, and they spent a lot of time to do that. Now, when you're in fear of losing the accreditation process because you don't have men and women shower facilities, or you don't have adequate plumbing in there, that says something not just about the PD, but about the town. And I know it's difficult, I mean, we're facing override in Merrimack for the schools, and that was the other thing you didn't mention. I know you guys just got a big bill, from Triton, on the school funding, issue that you have to
We
deal
have to
with.
reduce this police chief's salary by half.
So it's difficult, but you have to get the messaging out, and you invite people in. Maybe you have a citizens academy and you host it at the PD. That might be a way for people to get firsthand, view of the PD and the facility. And when you're dealing with people's pocketbooks, it's always a tough sell, because like you mentioned a couple of things that's going on in the town. Well, you only have so much revenue within the town. Believe me, I'm used to robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's always mad. Paul's always happy, but you still got to deal with Peter at some time, and I just continue to stay on messages. That's probably the best course of action for that.
Got any questions for us?
No, I've just a statement. If you don't mind.
Not at all.
The past few, I've always been familiar with Raleigh. Grew up in Groveland, live in Merrimack. I think I was telling you during the initial interview, the first memory of Raleigh was the Agawam Diner. Head in Agawam, we go to Essex, play hockey every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and my dad says, if you're good and I'm hungry, we'll stop and get breakfast. Well, we weren't always good. My dad was usually hungry, so we stopped at the Agawam Diner quite a bit. But I've been getting reacquainted with the town just by driving around the past few weekends, and it's gotten me excited for the opportunity, to possibly come here and police your town. I've also reached out to some of the area police chiefs and talked with Chief Mulligan as far as what he's seen here, and he says you got a great foundation, here, and something to build on. And that's gotten me more excited, for the opportunity. So I appreciate the opportunity for that you're giving me to come in here and speak with you. I wouldn't be in this process if I didn't want the position. Just with that, I just want to thank you all.
If you get appointed, do you root for Triton instead of Pentucket?
That's always going to be tough, right? Especially at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott, thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Scott.
Nice meeting you. Good luck.
Okay,
Wow.
we go from there.
If I could just make a couple of comments.
Sure.
We had 47 applications after, we had advertised nationally, but as you know, the ad was tailored to someone to fit your community. So we had 47 applications. That was narrowed to 11, and those 11 folks had town applications sent to them, and then they had narrative questions, which you've seen. One person out of the 11 withdrew. One we didn't have a response from. That left 9. 6 was selected by the committee for interviews, and then 3 from there to here. And it's the consultant's job, as I explained to Mr. Murray, not to recommend a candidate to you. Our job is to make sure that you have candidates in front of you that any one of them could do the job. and for you to make that final decision. And I think that's what we've done for you. I think we've put 3 great candidates in front of you, and the best of luck with your deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think you've met your goal.
Thank you.
They really were 3 excellent candidates.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough.
Yes.
Hard to make a choice.
Yes.
It's gonna be tough. Now, we are kind of on a time frame, and what I would like to do is, if the chairman suggests that we try to get one, if we want to discuss it tonight, and see if we can come up with a candidate. I mean, Jim's only gonna be here till the first part of April, so it's gonna be a tight time frame.
Well, I think we had 3 excellent candidates. They're all more than qualified
Yep.
in terms of police work. They've got all kinds of, I mean, the backgrounds that these guys, all 3 of them had in terms of functions within their departments, have given them a background that would be invaluable to us. And the big issue is, are they able to bring the macro down to the micro in terms of coming to Raleigh, a small department, and making it work. So I don't know. It's difficult, and it's going to be difficult whether we make the decision this week or next week. So I'll see what I'd like to hear what everybody has to say before making a decision.
All right, well, I know you mentioned the micro and so forth. I think a couple of these individuals are probably looking at this point to retire from their present job
Yes.
and then step up and just kind of finish out their career in a small town like this, which isn't as pressures. There aren't that many pressures that they're dealing with, particularly like Scott here, that just from Rochester. I mean, it's a big town.
Well, in particular, Bob, and as you're a municipal retiree, I'm a retiree from the state, so we know how the retirement system works.
Yeah.
And what typically happens, particularly in our area of the Commonwealth, is that people that retire in Massachusetts tend to go to New Hampshire for that, especially when you're young enough to not retire or you're just changing jobs. And
Yeah.
people from New Hampshire tend to retire up there and then come down here, which. And I think the reason why I asked the first candidate about the retirement system is the fact that he's not going to be retiring. He's going to be changing from one municipal job to another. So, it's a person that it had nothing to do with qualification. Very well qualified. I was very impressed with him. I thought he spoke well and did well. But my concern when you're trying to we're down to nitpick on little things to make a decision between people is that he's probably going to, from the application he sent in, he's definitely going to be taking a pay cut. He's going to be taking a reduction in our health insurance, et cetera, is I'm sure we pay a much smaller percentage the town does than what they do in Peabody. I'm not sure if Peabody is 75 or 80% that the town pays, the city pays. In addition to that, he's going to be losing. He must probably have 5 or 6 weeks vacation a year. He's probably looks like a very dedicated person, so he's probably got 500 sick days built up. So these are all kinds of things he's going to lose that he's really got to think strong and hard about. And because the other 2 come from New Hampshire, I'm not looking to get an out-of-stater, but I'm just wondering that if he comes from Peabody and is he going to be here for a couple of years and then look to as a stepping stone to go to another department where So I don't know. He's well qualified.
But he did respond to your question.
No, he did. But I'm just interested in the sense that I can sense that the other 2 candidates probably would retire from here, whereas this gentleman may not. He said he would, but I mean, you got to kind of look behind the scenes. So, like I say, I'm down to. I think we could roll the dice and get a good chief from any one of these 3.
Yeah, all 3 are very strong candidates.
The second candidate is, he's going to have to move, or he says he's going to move. That's a big nut to crack when you got a family and so on and so forth. And going from Derry, New Hampshire down to here is probably gonna be take a pocketbook hit in terms of property values and cost of real estate. You know, like I say, once again, very well qualified. I thought they all interviewed very well. Third candidate, I mean, I'm very impressed with his FBI stuff and his resume. I thought in the questions that they answered that they gave to your committee, I mean, when he went back and took excerpts from his evaluations from his chief, when I got done reading that page, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And
Very
that
impressive.
really impressed me in the way he put it on paper. And
Was that the third one?
the third gentleman, yeah, Mr. Dumas. And he's a local guy. I mean, it'd be nice to have someone who is from the area. And I know in my police career, my early years, I spent a lot of time in Merrimack as a trooper. So, because at that time they had a part-time police department. So I have a little affinity for the town in that regard. But you know, his kids, his kids go to Pentucket or have gone to Pentucket. He's from the area. Once again, he knows people. He's familiar with chiefs, and you know. So I'm kind of leaning towards him. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And it's not to in any way downgrade what the first two. I mean, how do you pick? I mean, I think we thank Mr. Pomeroy for coming up with three, and I'm sure there were more than three fantastic candidates. And it's a matter of, are we making the right decision for Raleigh? And I think with any one of these three we could. I just I'm just leaning towards Mr. Dumas for the reasons that I've given. So
I think I agree with you that we have three very exciting, very wonderful candidates for the position. The only negative that I could find in listening to the three interviews tonight was that the Mr. Burkhunt had not gone by the station and actually seen the facility, that we're concerned about the accreditation and everything. So I would, you know, Mr. Dumas or Mr. Richards, I like both of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, all three of them, definitely, like Dave says, roll the dice and you'd come up with a good candidate.
They all had very, very positive interviews.
But,
I thought they were all great, and I think it's really hard to say who we should vote for or who I should vote for, but I kind of favor the first one, and I actually thought that the fact that he would come here with a cut of pay says a lot about him, and you know, how much he wants to be the police chief in Raleigh. I mean, you never really know how long someone's going to stay with the police department.
You don't.
I get the sense that he really wants this job, and that he would stay here a while. I think it's he's familiar with the area. He's from this area. I think it's a good thing to hire within the state rather than to get someone from outside of the state.
It was kind of interesting when we were doing the selection process. I mean, we had down to 11, and almost every one of them had either come to Rowley or looked us up or watched us on TV. Scott Dumas came down 2 different weekends and rode around town and talked to people and looked at places. He was up at Seaview looking around on an ocean view. And it was just, it was amazing that, you know, they would think about doing that. It was pretty interesting, it really was. You're sitting there thinking you're just a little sleepy town sitting on the coast and nobody knows where you are, but people do. When they get an interest in it, they come looking. So.
But I'll tell you, in ranking the three candidates over the weekend, I read through the resumes and their responses to the questions, and I was really taken with the responses by Scott Richards on the questions. I thought he put a lot of thought into it and really answered the question very well. Did a great job with it. It stood out in my mind.
These are really three very, very good candidates. I grew up at a policeman's table, so I kind of see this maybe a little bit differently. So, so some of the questions I ask is, the guy at the table I grew up at, he was a prosecutor. So I heard a lot about, court time and integrity and how you present yourself. And that's the reason I asked those questions. I was very, very impressed with Scott Richards. I was very impressed with Scott Dumas. And Jeff Burke I was impressed with too. It's just how, the fit for Rowley, what's going to be that fit. Having grown up at that table, you hear certain things about, detective work. You hear about, courtrooms. You hear, criminals. You hear all this, and you get to know. It's kind of like Life 101, real quick. When you start at 8 years old, you start to hear the stories. And then when I heard Scott Dumas, and he was talking about the FBI Academy, and that's like the creme de creme in police work when you come out of there, and that's I really kind of lean towards Scott Dumas because of that, and that's you get a very special policeman coming out of that background.
Well, the other thing, Bob, too, in regards to that, and I have to agree with you. I mean, having been a police officer, to get the invitation,
Yes,
is really says something. Number one, and number two, what really impressed me even more was he not only went there, but he's maintained a relationship and a follow-up, and in other words, that experience obviously was a critical part of his police career. And I think to come to Rowley, and we have some great young officers, and not that any of them probably are ever going to get to the FBI Academy, but to have a person like that as a leader and instill that, like we do with our kids, we bring our kids up and, hey, your mother and I got degrees, we want you to get a degree. And so, and not that that's everything, but I think it's important that in a young department like we have, and we're probably going to get some more turnover too, and to instill in these guys and show them what the field can be. Even if they don't stay here forever, they may go on to other police departments. But I just think that at a time when we really want to instill some new invigoration in our department. I mean, it's a good department. We've got a lot of good people, and it can get stale. And I think this is a prime time between what Mr. Mulligan, Chief Mulligan, has brought to us and any one of these three candidates. But I just think, to me, I have to admit, maybe it's the FBI Academy that kind of puts it over the edge for me as far as I think what the future of the department is.
It's a huge resource, and you don't necessarily have the ability to call somebody, but to be able to use that as a resource, and that they recognize that you've been to the academy and that you have a bond established. It's just a very big resource for us.
Well, it's a brotherhood. There's no question.
No, it really is. I mean,
There's no question about that.
any of us I think we're all retired, and we all know that the relationships you build up along the way is what helps you in your job and your occupation, and that's the nature of the beast. And I mean, that's dealing with the best. And like I say, he really came across, to me, he came across as, when you mention the names of the other chiefs in the area and things like that, I mean, even though he worked in New Hampshire, he's got long-term relationships here. He's familiar with the local departments, the other local departments, and I would think he'd be a good fit to work with those chiefs too. So, and that's not to denigrate the other guys at all.
No.
And the small communities need to interlace like that.
Well, I mean,
They do.
we all see it. Police work's becoming more complicated, more difficult, more the expertise. I mean, we've seen it with Matt Ziv, our detective, who's been newly appointed. I mean, there's a guy that's dealing with computer cyber crimes, and we've seen some real nice police work being done by him and other members of the department in the past few weeks. I mean,
Yeah.
Chief Mulligan has done a real nice job of keeping us abreast of some of the things that are going on up there, and I'm really, really impressed. And I think it's so important that we keep this thing rolling. And I just see, making a tough choice, and we'll probably, it may be the toughest choice we have to make as selectmen, is to decide this position, because it comes once in a once in a lifetime sometimes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
You know, it's, we get the right candidate, and the other thing is being a non-civil service department, it's critical that we get a good chief, because our guys will bail out real quick if they're not happy.
The other thing is, this is like choosing, do we want the filet mignon, or the filet mignon?
Yeah, oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely, so definitely.
I don't think we have three excellent candidates to choose from.
So we want to take a hand count here, or how do we want to handle this?
Well, I mean, just to get off of square one, be head for first base, I'll make a motion that we make an offer to Mr. Dumas.
I would be happy to second that motion.
So we have a motion made and seconded.
And I'd be happy to hear anybody else wants some other nominations.
Do we want to do this by roll call vote, Deb? Just so we,
Yeah, you may if you choose to do so.
So just to be clear, I mean,
Yeah.
just offer something. I would recommend that you make a conditional offer of employment subject to a physical, psychological, and background investigation and contractual agreement.
it's part of the.
That sounds like my motion.
I thought it did.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bob?
Motion made and,
We're seconded, right?
Yep.
motion made and seconded. All those in favor by roll call vote?
Paul, do you have any?
Do I?
Oh, you want to talk? That's fine.
No, I would, I think I said everything.
Do you have any other nominations?
I mean, I hadn't been impressed by the FBI thing at the beginning, but I hardly even noticed it. But yeah, I mean, I think you make a good case that puts him over the edge in terms of, you know, that is a very objective factor that
It's a tight network.
makes him stand out a little bit from the other two,
Yeah,
who
it's
are
a-
all excellent. So
Yeah.
I have no problem.
And I just think when you add in the fact that he's coming down here, he lives in the area. I mean, the other gentleman from New Hampshire has to either move here or it's an hour's commute to get here. He's the excellent candidate. There's a lot of things that have to kind of fall into place. With this gentleman, everything seems to be in place, and he's got the background and the training and so on and so forth. I just see it as being a good fit, particularly the fact that he's from a local town, small town, so he thinks like we do, and yet he's got the credentials on a national basis of very impressive.
Yep.
Again, these are three very impressive.
Oh,
candidates.
I think, thank you for doing
Yes.
your company for giving us, it was well worth, we debated strongly to begin with how we were gonna conduct this. And I think your firm has done an excellent job. We've been very impressed with Chief Mulligan and the work he's done, and he's
Yes.
from the area here.
Oh, yes.
And he's been, I mean, I talked with him today regarding the building project and stuff, and, you know, he's on board with everything, and whatever we need from him, he's willing to help us out. I think he'll be a good help to transition the new chief.
Absolutely.
Whichever one takes it, I think would be a big help, so.
So we're gonna,
Call for a vote?
motion second.
Motion's made and seconded. Okay, all those in favor by roll call vote?
I Dave Peterson.
Hi, Robert Snow.
Aye, Bob Mary.
Aye, Joe Perry.
I Dave Peterson.
Who's opposed? Nobody.
Okay, all yours, Debbie.
Now we gotta go to work.
And thank you very much for
Thank
all
you.
you did and the excellent
Thank
job. We appreciate, believe me, we appreciate everything you've done for us.
Well, now I have two other great candidates that I can recruit for the position.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
So whatever town gets them would be well deserved, assuming that we're honest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the help.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, it worked out really good. Thank you. Well, these gonna be the glasses have to belong to Mr. Dawes. Or is that, or are these yours?
Yeah, they look like mine.
Oh, okay, good. If he forgot his glasses, we'd have to fire him before we hire him.
If you got your glasses, you always come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go back to where we left off. And that is old business number 2. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, it is, Chief.
Old business number 2, fiscal year Fiscal year 17 Triton budget update and recap of the March 2nd, 2016 Triton School Committee meeting and March 1st, 2016 Triton District Communications Committee meeting and Pine Grove School project. Joe will give an update on last week's school committee meeting and district communications meeting. Debbie needs the board to discuss the amount of the Pine Grove School project override. Debbie needs to write a warrant article and ballot question. The article and ballot question will need to be reviewed and approved by the board, by the bond council and town council.
Okay, we did have an interesting district communications meeting, but I would like to, we left the meeting feeling that the budget, a comment was made by one of the members of the school committee that it was a terrible budget, that she was not in favor of it, and that if there were any reductions in dollars that were available to the committee, that they would vote not to reduce the amount assessed to the towns, but to reinstate some of the things that they had cut from the budget. I did not physically go up to Triton, but I took advantage of the live streaming that they do from the Triton Library, and I was amazed, and I couldn't get get a hold of a pen to write down everything, but they did come up with $250,000 in savings. Oh, somewhere in the negotiations in the current budget. And based on what was said earlier at the March 1st and 2nd, that they will not be putting that towards the reductions, that they will use that to cut. But that's only my assessment. There has been nothing that has been published by the committee on that yet. On the 16th happens to be the only Wednesday that this month that they are not holding a school committee meeting. On the 23rd, there will be a 6:30 meeting for the district communications. It'll be a half hour prior to the regular school committee meeting so that we can discuss and be heard. On the 23rd, or I guess we voted last week that they have until the 30th to get their final figure in. So that will be coming up either at on Wednesday the 23rd or Wednesday the 30th. But the district communications, I think, on the 23rd is a very important meeting, and I will be there to represent our interests. The Pine Grove School, I am working with other individuals. I did speak to another person on the Ipswich SBC, School Building Committee. They are amazing people. They're wonderful, offer a lot of help, and I think that I can have a figure for us either next week or definitely by the 28th at the very, very latest for the Pine Grove feasibility study dollars. I feel that the Pine Grove School PTA is been very supportive. I've had a couple of meetings with them. Had one upstairs with members of the Pine Grove School PTA, and they are supporting the project, and they have a committee to support the project, and we have them. There will be a video produced. We got the okay from Brian Forget, and I believe that Principal Nealon will be involved with the video on what the needs are for the Pine Grove School, so that we will have the video for the police, for the fire, and for the Pine Grove School. And we do intend to make a presentation at Pine Grove School, tentatively set for April 5th.
In talking to the chief today, the fire chief in particular, Joe, we talked about publicity. And, you know, we're gonna try and have some meetings and stuff, but I did broach the chief about maybe the association being willing to kick in some money to put up signs.
Yeah, I mean, it's something.
I think that notifying the public is gonna be the difficult thing, because we, so, you know, some people might watch our meeting, some people watch the school committee meeting. 50 people probably buy the newspaper. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that it's tough to get the word out, and I think,
It is.
and we kind of agreed today that to do mailings and stuff is a lot of money for probably a relatively small payback, whereas if, like, last year when we did the ladder truck, the fire association put out
Signs.
the signs, just to more to remind people than anything else, and I would think that the school PTA might be willing to kick in some money, and if we could put out 100, you know, the political type signs, support public safety in Pine Grove School or something. In other words, a combination thing that we're working together, and I think it's important that we try and do that, and get the word out as best we can for both the town meeting and for the election. I think that's kind of, if anybody has any ideas, either one of the chiefs would be more than happy to deal with it. I did get a commitment the other day in talking to the architect that he's willing to come to any and all meetings we might have, a public presentation. He's more than, I mean, he wants to help us. He's a real nice guy. He wants to help us do whatever it takes to get, you know, his part of the project off the ground. And unless he's physically unable to get here, he'd be more than happy to appear at forums if we want to do a presentation when we have the time is getting tight. That's the part of the problem.
That's the biggest part.
So we were talking about maybe trying to get something with the PTO, I think meets on April 5th, and maybe having a presentation done at that time, and seeing if we can get the TV people to, you know, show the videos, the 3 videos, as the chiefs can do some talking, and the architect can do some talking. We talked about the architect getting a copy of the plans over to Michelle Marshall, so she can hopefully get an article rather than just her little column, but, you know, get with drawings and stuff like that, and talking to the 2 chiefs, maybe she can get a little larger story, get stuff to put on the website, so that we can, if people come to the front page of our website, it'll be right there. There'll be a picture of a fire engine or a fire truck or the front of the Pine Grove. In other words, like people, they'll click right on it and get to the information that they, either the video or written information on the project. So I think we got a lot of people working in a lot of different areas, and at this point, it's just time is like everything. As Debbie knows, time is moving by here fast, and whatever we can put together will be.
Do we know what effect these overrides would have on the average tax bill?
The treasurer was in. We were talking to the treasurer the other day, and she was kind of waiting to see what we might need for Pine Grove. But yeah, she'll come up with all that information. Once we put together a plot plan of what we're going to do. Yeah, definitely there'll be she can come up with that really. In fact, she already offered and said she would. So that'll be an integral part of what we put together, I'm sure.
You know, and again, you know, this is the time to do something like this because the interest rates are so low.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing the architect said today was, that I think I mentioned earlier, that building prices are just bouncing all over the place. I mean, he says it's tough from month to month. They're not sure, and he's going to take a re-look at the figures to make sure that the figures he gave us when he did the proposal are still pretty accurate, because he doesn't want to come in and end up being shot, you know.
And one of the things we have.
We can't do that after the water meeting.
Everybody come in, you know, we don't want to build a Taj Mahal.
No.
We want to build something that's utility-wise, something that can be used as a police, fire station. That's it. Nothing, you know, no bells and whistles. You know, we have, over at the firehouse, we have how much equipment? There's probably, $2 million worth of equipment in that building.
More, probably.
Probably more. And, you know, we need to protect that.
That's true.
And you know, I always say, the town is like your house. And, you know, the people, you know, you're tuning in here and you're watching, you know, the projects you have to do in your house, you have to do that project that particular time. or you have to kick it down the road. And then you have to weigh, if I kick it down the road, what the interest rate's gonna be, where am I gonna get the money, what do we do? But these are all things, this is like our big house.
Yep.
And a good example, Bob, is last week or the other week when we talked about when the fire chief came in and we talked about the broken water pipe in the floor. Well, that building,
Yeah.
I've gone back and looked, that building was built in 1880. Not as a fire station, I don't even know what it was originally built as.
It was Jerry Todd's grocery store
Grocery store, so we're parking.
with a pool hall on the second floor.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I can see that being a pool hall, that blends right in. But I mean, that building is probably in the next few years is gonna do nothing but deteriorate. I mean, it's reached its useful life is well past. We're putting equipment in there that's worth multi-millions of dollars with a ton of weight. And I think it's time that hopefully we can convince people that,
I'm averse to spending money.
oh, yeah, we all
Always
have.
have that. I'm a very frugal person, but there's sometimes, you gotta bite the bullet and you have to do certain things. And, projects come up and you have to address them.
And as we mentioned, in talking to the fire chief, if we built the building in 1999 or whatever, it was like $6 million. We would have had it 3/4 paid off now. So now we're going to spend
I'll
11
bring
or
that
12
green
million.
card in. I found the green card, and I keep meaning to bring it in
Yeah.
from 2002.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, it's a very simple design. When you look at what the architect has designed, it's very simple. It'll fit the town. It fits the neighborhood up there, and it's totally utilitarian.
Yep.
And will do us as long as we're all in town. It'll be more than fit our needs, and probably for a lot longer than that. But it's just, and then like I say, the Pine Grove School, you had that in there. It's just there's a chance to get 50% give or take reimbursement.
tune in.
Nice to get the two put together. And the other thing I think is important is, and I talked about it today, is the fact that if this is voted, your taxes aren't going up in FY17.
Right.
I mean, it's the school project's probably 5 years long before the doors get open. And talking to the architect, if we were to okay it for the town meeting in May, it'd probably be next spring before they can get everything designed and accepted, and a year from now, we'd be breaking ground, if then, which means that part of the project probably would be the following year before the bigger amount of tax money comes in, and we'd already have 2 or 3 years paid off before the schools starts really. So it's a kind of an integration, and we can talk with the treasurer in terms of how to fit this all in, so it's not like it's all gonna hit us in the next tax bill. And like talking to Pine Grove School, it's telling parents that, you might have a third grader, well, that third grader is not gonna see a new Pine Grove School.
No.
But the child that's 2 or 3 years old is probably gonna be able to go there if we can build it. So timing is a critical explanation of what's going on, so people understand the process and how it works and how the funding is gonna take place. And they're gonna take a hit, but on the other hand, it's long overdue, and if we don't do it now, we're gonna run into a disaster somewhere that,
Disaster. Yes.
that just gonna put us more in the hole. So.
And then if you kick the can down the road 15 years, the price, I guarantee, will be even, it'll double.
Yeah, and the
Oh, at
interest
least,
rates right now,
if not
interest
more.
rates are still relatively low, so we gotta take advantage when we can.
If I could offer one last comment, I was just thinking, thoughts pop into my head occasionally, that they opened up the stadium bids on last Friday afternoon. I haven't heard.
Okay.
You gotta keep us in suspense.
We don't need that news tonight anyway. We've already got enough issues. Okay, so we pretty much talked about the public safety building project itself, but we need a couple of other questions we need to answer here. And the Board of Selectmen is holding an informational session on the town meeting warrant on April 25th. Does the board wish to incorporate the presentation on the public safety building during that hearing, or would the board like to have a special evening set aside for this project? Also, is the board planning to have Greg Carell present at town meeting? Also,
He's,
No.
oh, sorry.
Also, Deb needs the board to provide her with the dollar amount requested on the town meeting warrant article and ballot question. Both the article and ballot question need to be reviewed by bond council and town council. So there's just a couple of 3 questions there we need to.
Corral made they said they will be at whatever meetings we need them at, so I would say that's a commitment.
Okay.
What we kind of talked about, Mr. Chairman, was the fact that if we can put this meeting together at the Pine Grove School with the PTO, and the reason why we're doing that is, we've all been to the, I don't even know if they're gonna have them anymore, the election, question and answers for candidates nights, and you're lucky if you get 4 people there.
Last year.
So the key is to try and get a large group together, so we feel that if we do it through the PTO, that we'll get a more sizable, I don't know how many, but and if we do it at the school, there's plenty of room, and we can make a nice presentation, and they can put the videos on the stage, et cetera. And then because of the time frame at this point,
You only got 7
I think
weeks left.
if we do that the 5th, and then if we follow up with other stuff, and then have maybe our forum, I don't know if we have time to actually have a public hearing here, or incorporate the public hearing into our meeting upstairs. I don't know how many people even are gonna come and comment, but I mean, I think we need a public hearing of sorts.
Well, I think we need the public hearing basically for the projects.
Right.
Those are where we need to talk to the people. If you wanted to hold the other one, that would take care of all of the articles in the warrant.
Yeah,
And then if people had questions for them, they could ask a question, but typically we don't get a huge crowd for that anyway.
no.
Right.
We get some interested people, which is good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
A lot of people probably follow it on TV, so I mean, it's hard to gauge today because we get good coverage and people looking at it. I don't know how you can gauge that, but yeah, it's a matter of trying to fit in with Debbie's, what she's got lined up for us and what nights we have to do a public hearing or combine it with something else, I guess is what I'm saying.
I would like to see it combined with, the budget and the presentation beforehand. So, people. Before. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the
Oh,
idea.
on the 25th.
And the 25th.
25th.
Yeah, I would like to see the Corral Group make their presentation at the Pine Grove on April 5th. I would like to see them here for our meeting on the 25th, and I would invite them to at least be at the town meeting.
Right.
Yes, that too.
I think that's very important for all 3
Mr. Chairman, one
meetings.
important note, we have the chairman of the finance committee here. The finance committee will be very busy that first week in April. They have a meeting scheduled for the 5th and a backup one, I believe, on the 6th, because the warrant needs to be put together, so they may not have the opportunity to attend this hearing if it is on the 5th. Just as a point of clarification, and their important body to be, that would probably want to be at that hearing. I defer to the chairman.
Well, it's just time is tough, time is tight.
Yeah, we picked 2 dates, April 5th and April 12th, and the 12th was ruled out.
And the finance
PTA.
committee, I think, is looking at what the budget numbers are more than not that they're not interested in the arguments, but I would think that, having worked with the finance committee, that they're probably interested in seeing both projects go forward, and I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but they're more concerned about how much money it's gonna cost. And I would be surprised if they didn't at least support the projects. I think that it's more important that we get as much public involvement at this point as we can.
Okay. Got anything to say, Larry? No. Okay. So we're
No,
all
say,
set.
Larry, no, look, we're interested, I didn't mean to say we're not interested in your input, but just that we're limited in terms of days available. I know you guys are too at this point, so it's.
Gotta be the 5th, gotta be the 5th.
Okay, the next.
Maybe we could do it, well, can't do it too early, but, because then people don't come.
They have to vote to recommend the article, and my past experience working with the finance committee, they do want to have information about the articles that they're going to be discussing. That's why I think I think that it's important that they have that opportunity, whether somebody makes a presentation to them at their meeting, because otherwise there'll be a recommendation from the floor potentially on those warrant articles.
Well, they'll be there for the 25th.
But the warrant will be already printed by then, and I'm just saying if they want to get the information on the warrant articles,
Well, I think we could,
they may, be asking for that opportunity, and they're meeting every Tuesday in the last week of March and the first week of April. We've tentatively got a Tuesday and Wednesday night, only because last year we had a crunch time and they did ask me to, give them some time to learn more about the warrant articles, so.
well, I think we could schedule a meeting before the finance committee as board members here and/or the school. School can kind of worry about their own appearance before the finance committee, but we could be here, and I'm sure Greg Corral would be more than happy to make a presentation for the finance committee. I mean, I'm kind of putting words in his mouth, but, I mean, I don't have a problem appearing before the finance committee. I mean, I think it's.
No, not at all.
I think it's, in the case of the school and the public safety building, they kind of cut and dried issues from a governmental standpoint. I don't see people necessarily going to vote for them, but I think that somehow I find it surprising that if the finance committee isn't going to support both these projects, just because they've all been around and they know the needs, and it's a matter of giving them the details. And I think we could work that out between either Selectmen going or Greg Corral or the two chiefs. I think that everybody is on board in terms of doing whatever it takes to get this thing passed. And Larry, if you want to set something up at the finance committee, you let us know when, and we'll have people there to explain the project.
Yeah, I'll mention it at our meeting tomorrow night, see what we can
Okay.
come up with.
We definitely want to do it. It's just that the problem with that Tuesday night is it's kind of a unique night. And I think that might be the one where we get the most people from the town, because the school is a PTO. And I think they have an excellent network of,
What time do they
emails
normally have
and
their
notifications, and
7.
probably 7 o'clock, I'm saying, yeah. And I would say that meeting will probably last an hour or so. I wouldn't think it'd be much longer than an hour in terms of the presentation of the projects. But, I mean, that's just a critical night that we need to meet for the townspeople. Followed up by our meeting upstairs, which, once again, will be big.
Okay? Any further comment? Go on to the next item, agenda item, which is fiscal 17 budgets. Okay, we have the first one is town moderator. By the way, the board needs to review the following budget, which have all been level funded, so. The first one is the town moderator. I mean, it can't get much simpler than that one, I guess.
Need a motion, Mr. Chairman, on these?
Yes.
I'll give you a motion on the town moderator.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the town moderator budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll recuse myself.
Motion carried, one recusal. Town council.
I'll give you a motion.
I'll second.
Actually, this one's out of it. What did I do with town council? Stuck with this one. It is. Okay. Motion made and seconded to approve the town council budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we got moderator, council, assessors budget, level funded.
Give you a motion on that, Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next one is information services,
Level funded.
level funded.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Planning board. Level funded. funded.
I'll give you the motion, Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Zoning Board of Appeals.
Make the motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Inspection Department.
Level funded.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Animal Inspector.
Level funded.
Level funded.
Give you the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Animal Control Officer.
Level funded. Give you a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Shellfish constable.
Shellfish Constable.
Level funded.
Level funded.
Give you a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Handicap commission.
Handicap Commission.
Level funded.
Level funded.
Give you a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Historical Commission and Historic District Commission.
Level funded. Give you a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. And I'm assuming this is the debt?
Mhm.
And it includes the landfill capping principal, new well and land principal, library principal, Hunsley Hills, all principals, basically.
Give you the motion, Mr.
It's
Chairman.
debt.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Carried. So that takes us down to announcements. And the first announcement is...
Good night, Larry.
Good night, Larry. Thank you. The water department will be conducting flow tests of the fire hydrants on March 16th and March 23rd. During this time, customers may experience dirty water. For more information, contact the Water Department at 800-553-5191 or go to the Water Department website at www.rowleywater.com. Rowley Community Blood Drive, March 15th, 2 to 7 p.m., Rowley Veterans Association Hall. It's a reminder. Annual town election is Tuesday, May 10th. Another reminder. Last day and hour to take out nomination papers is 5 p.m. Friday, March 18th. Last day and hour to return completed nomination papers is 5 p.m. Tuesday, March 22nd. Seats for which papers have not been taken out include 1 5-year seat on the Housing Authority, currently held by Catherine Dalzell, who has announced she will not be seeking re-election. One 3-year seat on the Board of Library Trustees, 2 seats on Shellfish Commission, 1 3-year term and 1 1-year unexpired term. 1 seat on the Board of Cemetery Commissioners. The Rowley Water Department 2015 Annual Water Quality Report is available online at www.rowleywater.com. rowleywater.com. If you would like a copy of the report mailed to you, contact customer service at 800-553-5191. Or stop by the Water Department office at 401 Central Street or Town Hall at 139 Main Street. The town has the following vacancies: Shellfish Commissioners, 1 seat; Fence Viewer, 3 positions; Wood Lumber and Bark Inspector; Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 3 seats; Historical Commission, Historic District Commission, 2 seats; Parks and Recreation Committee, 2 seats. And for more information on these positions, please contact the Selectmen's office at 948-2372. Rowley Food Pantry is in need of donations. The food pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that takes care of the announcements. Our next item on the agenda is executive session. The chairman calls for a motion to go into executive session for the following purpose: to discuss collective bargaining strategy. ASME Local 2905, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town, and to not return to open session. A selectman makes the motion, and it is seconded by another member of the Board of Selectmen. And a roll call vote is taken by both boards. By both boards? Roll call is taken by the board.
I'll give you that motion to go into executive session and not to return to open session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor by roll call vote?
Aye, Cliff Pierce.
I, Robert Snow.
Aye, Robert Murray.
Joe Perry.
Hi, Dave Peters.
We are in executive session.